Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Justice for All. So, last time I played Justice for All was on the 5th. It is the 13th. Why such a long pause? I moved! Thank God I did. I finally have my own place. Granted, I'm gonna be poor now. But you know what? I care about my privacy more than I do my money. If I had to choose one or the other. Of course, I'd also like to have money. But, you know, we can't have everything. So I chose privacy. Anyway, there should be less interruptions now. Because I don't have, like, bunkmates or animals. At least at the moment. That might be distracting. If I do get a pet, it's probably going to be a cat, which is going to be a lot less disruptive than dogs. I love dogs. They're loud sometimes. Anyway. This is the finale. You know, the smart thing to do would be to finish Justice for All and then do all the shit that I've just done. But no. I'm going to stop playing right at the finale. I still know what's going on, though. Let's do this. Huh? Huh? How did I get into this mess? That's far enough! You can't run forever, Mr. Phoenix Wright. What have I done wrong? I cannot allow you to go on like this. But I'm just a simple defense attorney. Silence! You are no longer worthy of your title. I've had this dream before, someplace, some time ago. As if this day was written into my destiny. Today, I'll stand in court as a lawyer. To prove a killer innocent. March 23rd, 9:43 a.m. District Court, Defendant Lobby Number 3. Hello? This is Phoenix Wright. You don't look so well, dude. You're gonna prove me not guilty today, right? If you please, Mr. Lawyer. Remember, it's not just me. Precious friend's life is riding on today's verdict, too. Now listen up. You better get unguarded guilty sentence, okay? If you get that creepy slime bag of not guilty, I'll never forgive you. Ever. Maya. Phoenix. Is this Pearl? Phoenix. Phoenix. Mia! Maya. How's Maya? I don't know. You don't know? She hasn't tried to channel me since yesterday. Mia, what am I supposed to do? Well, like I said, for a lawyer, the worst of times are when you have to force your biggest smiles. But you can't give up. There's still some hope left. Stop it, please! There's nothing left. Not here, not anywhere. It's that accursed on guard again. Will you leave me alone? Look, don't call me anymore. I mean it. You're really mean, pal. Ah, Gumshoe! I'm really, really sorry. Where are you? They let me join the investigation team, and we're chasing after the killer, pal. Then, you have some sort of lead? I'm sorry, but right now we've got 0 leads on the guy. But we're not going to give up. Gumshoe, until the trial is over, until the verdict is handed down. We're going to do everything we can and find a killer. If we can get Maya out, then you can get on guard the guilty verdict he deserves, pal. That's true. I could do that if they find Maya first. You got that? So you have to do whatever you can to make the trial last longer. I have to make the trial last longer? If you go on Mr. Edgeworth with everything you've got, then you two can draw it out. Ah, now I get it. I believe in you, pal. You and Mr. Edgeworth can do it. So, believe in us. We're going to give it all we've got, just like you. Got it. Thanks, Gumshoe. Hey, Phoenix. You understand now, don't you? You have something money will never be able to buy. Friendship. It's the strongest weapon in the world, and you have it in abundance. Yeah! Looks like we're coming to the end. I have to make the trial last as long as I can. Gumshoe will come through. I know it. March 23rd, 10 a.m., District Court, Courtroom Number 3. Court is now in session for the trial of Matt on guard. The defense is ready, Your Honor. The prosecution has been ready for a while, Your Honor. Oh, as I recall, we concluded yesterday's session with a big mystery on our hands. The mystery being what exactly was Miss Adrian Andrews' role in this murder. That is to say, is she really connected to the crime itself? Mr. Edgeworth, if you would please inform the court of today's proceedings. Adrian Andrews. She forged evidence that threw suspicion onto Mr. Ungard, and then proceeded to escape the crime scene by wearing a nickel samurai costume. The guilty of these actions are those from which she cannot escape. And you're saying that she is guilty after all? I'm not finished, Your Honor. Miss Andrews has nothing to do with committing the actual murder. I would like to direct the court's attention to this card. What is that? Looks like a shell. This is the calling card of a certain assassin. Assassin, you say? Yes, Juan Cordo was killed by a professional assassin. And the person who hired the assassin, his client, so to speak, is Matt on guard. What a surprising turn of events! I would think it's become commonplace by now, Your Honor. I know what's going on this time. So I know that everything Edgeworth has said is true. But we still have to hold out as long as we can. At least until Maya's safe and sound. I wonder how the trial will turn out today. Now then, please call your first witness, Mr. Edgeworth. Prosecution calls the defendant's mentor, Mr. Will Powers, to the stand. Now then, witness. Your name and occupation, please. Okay. I'm, Will Powers. I'm a poor, underpaid action star. Then what is your relation to the defendant? Well, I guess I'm sort of a lousy mentor to him in a way, yeah. Mr. Powers, please, don't need to put yourself down so much. Oh, sorry. Well, but I'm just kind of a nothing sort of guy. On the night of the murder, you visited the defendant's room. Is this correct? Yes. I didn't know that. But, you know, I didn't actually get to see Matt when I went. All you need to do is answer what you're asked. Now then, I would like you to please testify about when you went to Mr. Ungard's room. Okay, sure. Visit to Matt's room. After the awards ceremony, I went by myself to Matt's room. Matt was standing there in front of his room, still in his nickel samurai costume. He was talking with someone. At first, I thought it was the bellboy. I watched the two of them for a while, but then I gave up and went back. I had guests with me that night, and I couldn't make them wait for me. Nothing sounds out of place in Mr. Power's testimony. Talking with the bellboy is no big deal. If one assumes that the person Mr. Ungard was speaking with was an ordinary bellboy. What are you implying? Well, Mr. Wright, let's have your cross-examination, shall we? Looks like we're in another sticky situation. Huh? A trap. Can't you smell it, Phoenix? But for us to find out more, we're just going to have to charge in head first, right? Visit to Matt's room. After the awards ceremony, I went by myself to Matt's room. Matt was standing there in front of his room, still in his nickel samurai costume. Okay, hang on. The ceremony, I went by myself to Matt's room. Stop right there. The defendant's room? Why did you go there? Well, I'm his mentor, like a big brother of sorts, and I wanted to say congrats. What's wrong? Why did you stop? Mr. Wright. What is it? You're gonna try and trick me into a corner, aren't you? Huh? I know I'm just a poor underpaid action star, but I'm not the killer. No one said you were, Mr. Powers. No, please, don't trick me. Every time you do your lawyer thing, the witness suddenly turns into the bad guy. Every time? Witness, I will personally talk to the defense at a later time. As for now, please kindly cooperate and continue with your testimony. Sorry. Oh, went to the defendant's room, and then... Hey, wait a minute. When and how did I suddenly turn into the bad guy here? Matt was standing there in front of his room, still in his nickel samurai costume. Are you sure that was Matt on guard? Yeah, I'm sure. He wasn't wearing the nickel samurai mask then. If that's the case, then he really can't be mistaken. And... what was the defendant doing, standing in front of his own room? He was talking with someone at first. I thought it was the bellboy. At first? What do you mean by that? Well, he was in a bellboyish uniform and he had a bottle of juice on a tray. Sounds like an ordinary bellboy to me. Yeah, but I didn't think he was a normal bellboy. And why was that? Why did I think that, Mr. Wright? How am I supposed to know? Sorry, but I can't remember right now. Sorry. I guess I'm gonna have to wait patiently on this one. I watched the two of them for a while, but then I gave up and went back. You saw the two of them? The bellboy and the defendant together, correct? Yeah, the bellboy just wanted to say congrats. Now, while you were watching the two of them, did you notice anything strange? You know, I did feel something weird. I think it was because Matt, well, he gave the bellboy a tip. A tip? But that's a perfectly normal thing to do. So, how long did you watch the two of them? Not more than a minute or two, I think. I had guests with me that night, and I couldn't make them wait for me. So who are these guests you're talking about? You guys, of course! You and Maya and Little Pearl. I thought it would be really rude since I invited you guys if I disappeared on you. So I went back to my seat pretty soon after seeing Matt in the hallway. This is like squeezing water from a stone. Probably pointless to press further. Do you remember this incident? Did Mr. Powers leave his seat that night? I don't remember that happening at all. Maya was making such a racket in her hyper state. I ended up focusing on her. I see. In any case, from his story, he probably wasn't gone for very long. After the award ceremony, Matt was standing in front of his room, still in his nickel samurai costume. Huh. None of these would be it. None of these. Here's Lotta's picture. Yeah. See. After the awards ceremony. The awards ceremony happened time of death 8:15. Right after the murder. But we don't have a specific time. See, this doesn't seem like something I can really present against. Matt was standing there in front of his room, still in his nickel samurai costume. Oh, wait a minute. Actually, Mr. Powers, only a few minutes ago you stated, I did feel something weird. I think it was because Matt, well, he gave the bellboy a tip. Could it be that you felt something strange about the tip-giving incident itself? Ah, yeah, that's it. You really know your job. Mr. Edgeworth. Yes, Your Honor. This bellboy, he wasn't an ordinary one, was he? Perhaps we should let the witness tell us. Very well. Mr. Powers, please amend your testimony. You mean about the bellboy, right? Matt gave the bellboy a tip. So he gave the bellboy a tip. What's so strange about that? Well, you see, Matt's not a poor penny pincher like me. I was trying to figure out how much it was because the tip really shocked me. How much it was? But that's when something even more surprising happened. The bellboy was putting the tip he got in his pocket. And that's when I got my first good look at the guy's face. I was really shocked. I'm afraid I don't follow at all. Sounds like Mr. Powers was surprised twice by this event. I wonder which of his shocking moments I should ask about. The defendant is a huge star. He can afford to give generous tips, wouldn't you agree? Oh, sure. But giving him that much was maybe a little too much, I think. A little too much? Would you please clarify for the court? About how much would you say the defendant gave the bellboy? Honestly, I don't know. Can't even begin to guess. Why? And why is that? Because he gave the bellboy a really fat roll of cash. A roll of cash? Well, how interesting. Certainly was a very generous tip, wasn't it? A very fat roll of cash? That can hardly be called a tip, Your Honor. The judge is beginning to look awfully suspicious of us. The defendant is a superstar. That kind of tip is typical fare for people like him. Are you saying that all superstars are super spenders? If I could receive large rolls of cash by simply bringing people things on trays, then why on earth would I stand around here prosecuting? He's got a point. I don't even get paid, let alone rolls of cash, for all my hard work. So supposing that roll of cash was not a tip, then what was it? Payment, Your Honor. Payment? Isn't it obvious? For the murder of Mr. Juan Corrida. Then, the bellboy the witness saw? Yes, he was the assassin. Hold your horses now, Mr. Edgeworth. You don't have any proof of this, do you? Have I ever been unprepared to support my claims, Your Honor? I have here the card Shelley the Killer left at the scene of the crime. Shelley the Killer? He is the person the police's special investigations team has been chasing for ages. I am certain that the person the witness saw was this very assassin, Shelley the Killer. Really? What's wrong, Mr. Powers? No, nothing. Nothing. Something just clicked in my head, and I think I just figured something out. Oh? Actually, I saw that bellboy again later on that night. What? Mr. Powers, please testify. Tell us what you saw. Yes, sir. Right away. The second time. This time, I was in that hallway because I had to go to the bathroom. And that's when that bellboy I saw earlier came out of the room. Of course, when I say room, I mean Juan Corrida's room. Now that I think about it, that bellboy did seem kind of out of place. Yeah, so he had to be the assassin. I'm sure of it. I mean... Thank you very much. That is all we need for now. Huh? But I'm not done. There's still more. Let us first establish that the bellboy was truly Mr. the Killer. Then we shall see. So the bellboy came out of the victim's room. If that bellboy really was the assassin, then I think the answer is fairly obvious. Would be correct, Your Honor. Well, Mr. Wright, I believe it's your turn to entertain and make us laugh. This is no laughing matter. The second time. This time I was in that hallway because I had to go to the bathroom. And what time was it? Well, I don't remember. The award ceremony ended around 8 p.m., right? And I went to Matt's room pretty soon after that. And then I came back. And then I went to the bathroom. So I guess maybe it was around 8-10 p.m. by that time? You're not one for details, are you, Mr. Powers? Sorry. I thought I could maybe catch Matt and say my congrats. And that's when that bellboy I saw earlier came out of the room. Are you sure it was the same bellboy? Yeah. And how could you tell? All the bellboys wear the same uniform after all. But, you see, well, he had those stitches in his face. So I'm sure it's the same guy that was talking with Matt. Which room did the bellboy come out of? Of course, when I say room, I mean Juan Corda's room. The victim's room, huh? Yeah, the one with all the really pretty flowers and teddy bears. It was Juan's room, all right. Words cannot describe how screwed I am. Let's continue with the testimony, shall we? Now that I think about it, that bellboy did seem kind of out of place. So what exactly was so out of place about him? Right. Why the insipid grin? Maybe because I have no idea what damaging thing he's going to say next. Oh, well, the bellboy was empty-handed. Empty-handed? That bellboy was one of those room service people, right? But he wasn't pushing a cart. And he wasn't holding a tray, either. You'd call that a little strange, too, wouldn't you? I agree. That is a bit strange, Mr. Powers. But is it really that unusual for a bellboy to be empty-handed? What should I do? Maybe I let Mr. Powers' testimony slide, or... There is nothing strange or unusual about an empty-handed bellboy. But there really, really is. There really, really isn't. If you two are done being school children, bellboys offer room service. There was no reason for them to be empty-handed, ever. Your Honor, I ask that the witness's previous statement be supplanted with this new one. Edgeworth. Are you going to do whatever you can to make the bellboy look suspicious? I see. Very well. This court recognizes and grants the prosecution's request. Mr. Powers, if you could amend your testimony, please. Yes, sir. I thought it was kind of strange for a bellboy to come out of a guest room empty-handed. So you're saying that it's suspicious for him to be empty-handed? Yeah, really suspicious. I mean, when I first saw that bellboy, he was holding a tray in his hand. And then there was a bottle of juice and a wine glass on it. Juice? What kind of juice was it? I'm pretty sure it was tomato juice. If we could come up with some sort of reason as to why he would come out empty-handed, some sort of proof, then I think we can dodge the bullet on this one for now. Proof, huh? Sounds like another job for the court record. Yeah, so he had to be the assassin. I'm sure of it. Please don't be so quick to judge. But it's kind of a Powers family thing. Think of every person as a thief. Well, I guess a thief and an assassin are both sneaky and silent. It's not the point, Phoenix. In any case, if that bellboy was the assassin, it would be very bad for us. But he really is the assassin, you know? Yes, but you can't give in yet if you want to prolong this trial for as long as possible. You're going to have to pull some cheap tricks on this one. Yeah. Mr. Powers. Yes? You're easily influenced by other people's words, aren't you? As soon as you heard that the bellboy might have been the killer, you got caught up in believing it must be true. But, isn't he really suspicious? He's got all those stitches, and... So, a baseball has stitches? Are you saying all baseballs are suspicious because they have stitches? Well, there's also
I mean, what about him being empty-handed?
I would like to ask the court to please take a look here.
This is the crime scene?
There's a wine glass sitting next to Mr. Corrida's body. Liquid inside this glass is tomato juice. And now, if you would look at what is on top of the table in the lower right corner here, anyone can clearly see that it is a tray with a bottle of tomato juice on it. The bellboy had just brought this to Mr. Corrida's room. He left the tray in the room, which is why he was empty-handed when he left.
Oh, what? That would mean that the bellboy had seen and left a dead body in the room.
Can you prove that Mr. Corrida was already dead at that time?
Mr. Edgeworth.
Yes?
I blame you for leading me down this route.
I'm terribly sorry. What is with him? Why is he laughing? Witness, isn't there one more thing you would like to share with us?
Is there?
The bellboy was empty-handed, or should I say empty-handed. I recall you had something interesting to say about his hands.
Oh yeah, I almost forgot.
Huh? What?
That bellboy. He was wearing gloves.
Gloves?
Yeah, pitch black, leather ones. All the other bellboys don't wear gloves like that, right? Black leather gloves. Why didn't you mention them earlier? Sorry, it slipped my mind.
Boy, does this make the bellboy look really suspicious. Alright, gotta focus. Can't get lax here. So what if he had gloves? A lot of bellboys wear gloves.
Come on, Mr. Wright.
That bellboy was wearing black leather ones. So, a football is made of leather. Are you saying all footballs are suspicious because they are made of leather?
That man, he received a large roll of cash from the defendant. And then he was seen leaving the crime scene wearing black leather gloves. I don't think that even someone like myself can believe he was just another bellboy.
It seems that we have finally come to an understanding. Now then, witness, please continue with the rest of your testimony. The rest?
Oh, yes. Please tell us more.
Okay. Their second meeting.
After leaving Juan's room, the bellboy went and knocked on Matt's door.
Just like that.
He gave something to the person inside the room. Then the old guy just left, not even going into the room. After that, I went to the bathroom and then back to my seat. So the bellboy, after leaving the crime scene, next went to the defendant's room. Yeah, I kinda saw all that by accident.
Some accident? I'd say you saw too much. All of it was suspicious to high heaven.
I think it's safe to say that we can no longer consider this bellboy to be normal. Now then, let's get started, shall we, Mr. Wright? Cross-examination, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Second meeting.
After leaving Juan's room, the bellboy went and knocked on Matt's door, just like that.
Is that what you saw when you were busy spying?
Excuse me? I may be a poor, underpaid action star, but even I wouldn't stoop to spying. Well, I think the point is, where did you watch all this from, Mr. Powers?
Oh, from the door of the bathroom with my left eye, and a sort of sneaky, spy-like. I knew he was spying. Please, does it really matter if he was doing it over or underhandedly? What did the bellboy do next? That's all I care to know.
Yet he gave something to the person inside the room.
I said hold it!
Oh, okay.
That's better. What kind of statement is that? Please elaborate and give us a few more details.
Oh, okay.
I should probably ask him only one question at a time. So, who took this something the bellboy handed off?
Actually, I don't know.
What do you mean?
I'm sorry, but I only saw the person's arm. Only an arm?
Then you're saying you didn't see the person's face?
Yeah. Well, if it was Mr. Enguarde's room, correct? Could have only been Mr. Enguarde himself, I'd say.
And then, what did the bellboy do after that?
Oh, so after he gave the person inside the room the thing, then the old guy just left, without even going into the room.
Where did this bellboy go after he left Mr. Enguarde's room?
He opened the door in Viola Hall. Went in there, and who knows after that, right?
Ah, I do.
After that, I went to the bathroom and then back to my seat.
Did you see anything strange, suspicious, or just out of the ordinary at that time?
Oh yeah, I saw that one thing.
What? You saw something else?
It was this jittery alien with a ray gun. It was watching Juan's door like some sort of stalker.
I think we can forget about the alien. Well, Mr. Power's testimony just now was just as vague as his first. A little troublesome, isn't it? But I'm sure if you press him enough, everything will become clearer. Although, that just makes it harder on us, doesn't it?
Talk about a lose-lose situation.
He gave something to this person?
Yeah.
And what was this something?
Ha. If I remembered what it was, I wouldn't be calling it a something, would I? But that implies that something was removed from the scene of the crime. Are you saying you really can't remember, Mr. Powers?
I think it was something kinda small. I would like to summarize the testimony up to this point, if you don't mind. When the bellboy left the crime scene, he admittedly went to the defendant's room. There, he handed a small item of some sort to the person inside. As for the person who received the item, all you could see was the person's arm.
Yes, it was just like that. Mr. Edgeworth, is all this really that important?
Of course, Your Honor. I think this is of the utmost importance. This is when whatever was removed from the crime scene was handed over to the client.
Mr. Powers, please try to remember what it was the bellboy handed off. Well, let's see. I think it was no... If you remember, please add it to your testimony. Yes, sir. If I saw it again, I could say for sure, but I think it was some sort of wooden statue.
A statue?
Yeah, it kind of looked like one, I guess. If I saw the actual thing again, I'd probably remember, you know?
Looks like for this trial to proceed, I'm gonna have to come up with whatever this statue thing is and show it to him. You're going to have to trust your instincts on this one and take a chance, Phoenix.
Well, Mr. Powers, let's continue with your testimony. What did the bellboy do after that?
I think it was a wooden statue. What was the point of that pregnant pause?
Where did that objection come from? Well, speak up.
It was me, Your Honor. What is it, Phoenix? I have a feeling that something bad is going to happen once I show this.
Mr. Wright, if you have something to say, please spit it out.
Yes, Your Honor. Okay, Phoenix. Deep breath. Mr. Powers. There's something you saw. Was it this item?
Oh, hey, that's it. That's the something. Wow, Mr. Wright, you really figured it out.
I recall we found this at Madame Guard's mansion.
The defendant's house. What does this mean?
It's simple, Your Honor. Shelley the Killer assassinated Juan Corda in his room. And then he stole this wooden bear from the scene of the crime.
Then the bear being found at Mr. Ungard's mansion would mean...
It goes without saying, Your Honor. Mr. Matt Ungard is Miss the Killer's client.
Order! 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 I said order! Mr. Wright, this is the most unfortunate turn of events for you.
Yeah. Sorry, Mia. No, it's all right. Your judgment was sound. Actually, I figured the bear would come up. Not now than it would have later on. Even if you had shown it to the court, I'm sure your friend Edgeworth would have. I almost forgot that he knew about it too.
I think it is clear that there is no need for us to continue this trial.
I can't let this happen. I have to do something. There has to be something we've overlooked.
Your Honor!
A minute, please!
Yes, Mr. Wright.
There are still a few points left that we have not fully explored. What are you trying to pull?
Oh, well, we can't have that. Alright, Mr. Wright. What questionable point would you like to explore further?
That is a very good question. There was one thing in Mr. Power's testimony that was very unclear. And that is the identity of the person who received the bear. Gave something to the person inside the room. I'm sorry, but I only saw the person's arm. As long as we don't know who it was that took the bear, we can't be sure of... Oh!
What is it, Mr. Powers? If you're going to scream like that, at least give us a good reason why.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Actually, so, I remembered. I remembered who took the bear.
What? Really?
I mean, I only saw his arm, but the arm... It was the Nickel Samurai's arm, I swear it. You've got to be kidding! Are you sure of that, Mr. Powers? Yeah, I'm sure it was the Nickel Samurai.
Order! Order! Looks like you've dug your own grave yet again.
How many times is that today? I've lost count. So the person who took in this little bear was the Nickel Samurai. And as we know, Matt on Guard is the Nickel Samurai.
Thanks to the defense, we've made that all the clearer.
What am I supposed to do now? Mia, help! You don't have time to act lost. You've got to find another angle to attack this from. Hurry.
Now, I will bring this cross-examination to... Your Honor! Again, Mr. Wright. We've already removed any and all questionable areas of this testimony.
It's about time you were removed from this court, Mr. Wright. I had to find something. Even one more little point will do. There are still questions left unanswered. What are you trying to pull?
Oh, well, we can't have that. Alright, Mr. Wright, what questionable point would you like to explore further?
Mr. Powers' testimony, of course. Huh? I know that my testimony was kind of shaky, but... Your innate stupefies me, Mr. Inanity stupefies me, Mr. Wright. We have already clarified all the questionable points during the cross-examination just now. Wasting time like this, calling the testimony questionable. I'd say it's your head that's questionable here.
Ah! Yes, I agree. Cross-examination went smoothly, and there was nothing wrong with the testimony. Now then, I believe...
Please, wait!
You're being very persistent today, because I can't let it end like this. I know my outburst just now was a little questionable.
Questionable indeed.
But there really are some questionable points left to discuss, Your Honor.
What are you trying to pull?
I guess the bear itself. I think it's fairly obvious that the bear itself is very questionable. The bear, Mr. Wright? This was found at Mr. Ungard's mansion. However, Mr. Ungard was arrested at the hotel that night, which means that since the murder occurred, he had not had a chance to go home. Oh. I think Your Honor has already figured out what I'm trying to say. It's not possible that it was Mr. Ungard who took this bear to his mansion. Why, that is very true. We didn't consider that point, Mr. Wright. There was no way, time-wise, for the defendant to have taken this bear home. Whew. Disaster averted, it looks.
You haven't gotten the best of me yet, Mr. Wright.
Huh?
I remember it clear as day. I remember what you muttered to yourself at Ungard's mansion. We have this area completely surrounded. There's no way for him to escape.
I can't believe it. That butler. All this time, he was the killer.
The killer and Ungard were working together, so to speak. And the killer was hiding at Ungard's mansion as its butler.
What a bold move.
The bear figurine was brought back to Ungard's mansion by the killer himself. When it looked like he was about to be arrested, Ungard had him do it. I assume because it would have been bad had the police found it during their investigation. Well, Mr. Wright, you've been quiet for a while now.
This is too much. Isn't there anything I can attack at all? I think we've heard enough. We now know why this bear figurine was at the defendant's mansion, as well as who it was that received the bear from the assassin in his room. Everything has become very clear. Client who hired the assassin to commit the murder was Mr. Ungard. I see no reason for this trial to continue. Therefore, I will now hand down my verdict.
Thank you, Your Honor, for your understanding. You see, Mr. Wright, you could not win against the truth, could you?
I knew it would turn out this way. After all, what Edgeworth has stated is the truth. Any last objections, Mr. Wright? Well, do I? What should I do? I will now pronounce my... There's only one way for me to drag this trial out. The only thing I have left to do is one dirty trick. Your Honor, right now we have these two reasons to believe my client is the assassin's client. Reason number one, he accepted the bear figurine from the assassin. Reason number two, that very same figurine was found at Ungard's mansion. However, it's possible that this is all the work of a certain other person. What are you saying? What I'm saying is, it's possible a different person is the killer's real client. A real client? Yes.
Is that all you have?
Now then, Mr. Wright, let's hear your theory. Who do you think is the killer's real client, and therefore the real murderer? Adrian Andrews. Yes, we already know that she tried to frame Matt Ungard for the crime by wearing the Spale Nickel Samurai costume. Oh! Then, when the Nickel Samurai's arm that I saw, that could have very well been Miss Andrews. But what about Mr. Ungard? If you would please recall yesterday's testimony. The defendant was taking a nap during the break period. That's right. Then, Finding this figurine at Mr. Unguard's mansion was a well-laid trap set by Miss Andrews. Mr. Edgeworth, what is your opinion on this?
I cannot even begin to count the flaws in the defendant's logic. Besides which, there is no evidence to support it. However, I can't fully discount its possibility either.
What is with this trial? Come on, anyone can tell Unguard did it.
Can't believe the defense would go so far as to pin the guilt onto someone else. Yeah, unbelievable. It's not something petty. It's murder after all.
This is to save Maya. This is to save Maya. Even if the whole world turns against me, this is one fight I can't give up on. Order! 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 All disruptive parties will be forced to leave the courtroom.
Your Honor. For the benefit of the defense, I'm willing to play along with his what-if game.
His what-if game, Mr. Edgeworth?
The prosecution is prepared to challenge the defense's theory. Mr. Wright, even you must have thought it strange and wondered. Why would the criminal want this little wooden bear?
He's right. Killer did specially bring that bear to Unguard right away.
Why, do you ask? Is there something special about it? Absolutely. And I'm sure that once the court knows its significance, the true killer's identity will become crystal clear. Your Honor, the prosecution calls upon a witness who will clear all doubts against Miss Andrews.
And who would that be?
It's quite simple, Your Honor. Miss Adrian Andrews herself.
I see. Well then, the court will take a short 10-minute recess. The prosecution will prepare its witness in that time.
Yes, Your Honor.
March 23rd, 11:54 a.m. Defendant lobby number 3.
Oh, I knew it was a good idea to hold her hostage. Don't you agree, Mr. Lawyer? But I never thought, in your desperation, you tried to pin the guilt onto Adrian. I swear this demon will pay.
Mr. Nick!
Pearls, where's Mia?
I don't know. A really strong power suddenly called her away.
A really strong power?
Oh, Mr. Nick, your phone is...
It's from Gumshoe.
How's it going? Have you been hanging in there, pal?
Yeah, sort of. We just barely found something to latch onto.
Whew, that's good, pal.
What about you? Anything yet? Haven't figured out where the killer and Maya are.
We still don't have any leads, but...
What? We don't have any more time!
Yeah, if we just had one, even a single clue would be really helpful.
I was only able to come this far because I kept thinking to myself, I've got to keep the trial going until Maya's been rescued. But have I just run out of luck this time? Is all our hope for naught? A tent. Huh? A tent? I could see a circus tent. Mia! It looks like Maya was unconscious until just a few minutes ago. As soon as she woke up, she called for me.
So it was Maya that called you away.
She's locked in a dusty little room right now. But I could see a circus tent outside the window about 300 feet away.
Gumshoe! Is there a circus in town right now?
There's only one, pal. The very big circus. Maya's somewhere within a 300-foot radius of the main tent.
What?
Okay, hold on a sec, pal.
Hey, draw a circle on that map. About a 300-foot radius from the main tent. Hurry!
And I could see a mailbox under the window just outside.
Gumshoe, there's also a mailbox.
Okay, what else? What else, Mia? I'm sorry, but it was a very small window. I couldn't see anything else. It felt like I was in an old office building. Maybe the 3rd floor or so. Nah, I heard her. An old office building. Good stuff, pal. Okay, just hang in there. Just a little longer, pal. Wish us luck. Good luck. Yeah, I'll call you later, so don't let your battery die, okay, pal? Mia, Maya's not hurt, right?
She's in a pretty bad state, Phoenix. She's being starved.
Gumshoe, please hurry.
Looks like we're out of time. Are you alright, Phoenix?
It's only a matter of time before Maya's rescued. I can do this. I just have to make this trial last a little longer. March 23rd, 12:05 p.m. Court will now reconvene.
The killer, the man who murdered the victim, handed this to his client. From this, one obvious question arises. Why this particular item? I believe the answer to that question will provide us with the name of the real culprit. Now then, the prosecution calls the defendant's manager, Adrian Andrews, to the stand. Currently, the witness is accused of tampering and obstruction of justice. However, you have been called to the witness stand today to ascertain who exactly is guilty of murder. I understand. Very good. Now, have you ever seen this bear before, Miss Andrews? Of course I have.
You've seen it before.
That's right. It's only natural that the witness has. Miss Andrews, could you please enlighten the court to this bear's secret? All right.
Why? Why does she... The bear figurine.
Actually, this is an elaborate puzzle. If you know the correct order, it can be taken apart one piece at a time. At its center is a small cavity, with just enough room to store a small item. Because of its complexity, if you don't know the order, you can't open the bear. You really can't tell that it's a small jewelry box just by looking at it.
So this figurine, it's a container of sorts, is it?
Yes, looks can be deceiving, wouldn't you agree?
Yes, that is superb craftsmanship. Oh, yes, I nearly forgot. You may begin your cross-examination, Mr. Wright.
It looks like there really was something to that bear after all.
The bear figurine.
Actually, this is an elaborate puzzle.
A puzzle?
That's right.
But it looks like an ordinary figurine.
True enough. To people who don't know, I'm sure they would never guess that this was a puzzle. So what kind of puzzle is this exactly?
If you know the correct order, it can be taken apart one piece at a time.
So you can take it apart, and how would one go about doing that?
Well, you first turn its tail to the right, and then push it in.
Oh, yes, I see.
After that, the arms and legs are free to move and can be removed.
Oh, this is most interesting.
A boy and his new toy. Like he's 5 all over again.
The puzzle boxes are so cool. Oh, don't mind me. Go ahead and carry on.
I think he's lost it.
So what did you find after you take the puzzle apart? At its center is a small cavity with just enough room to store a small item.
And how do you know about this?
I know because I was the one who bought it.
Huh?
It was a souvenir from when a friend and I went to Switzerland.
Then this was a present from you?
That's right. It was a puzzle in the shape of a bear, so I thought it would be perfect for Juan.
So it was a present for Miss Andrews.
Witness, let's continue with your testimony. Because of its complexity, if you don't know the order, you can't open the bear.
So who exactly knew how to solve this puzzle?
Only the two of us, Juan and myself. It was a souvenir from Switzerland. So I doubt there are that many people with the same bear in this country.
Well, this looks like it can be easily broken. Especially if someone wanted to get at what's inside.
Well, it's a toy. But it can never be the same again once it's been broken. You really can't tell that it's a small jewelry box just by looking at it.
Who else knows that this bear is actually a small container or jewelry box?
I never told anyone. For as long as Juan never told anyone either. Then only the two of us knew.
The two of you, huh? Then of course that means Mr. On Guard didn't know, right? I think this is about all I'm going to get for now. A wooden puzzle with a hollow inside. Only Corida and Andrews know how to open it.
Well, Mr. Wright, I think even you have come to realize that there is one very important fact we have uncovered, and that is this. This bear is actually a jewelry box. Now that we have agreed to this point, there is only one logical question that can come next, and that is this. What is inside this box?
What's inside?
That's right. That's what we are going to find out next. Witness? Yes? You are the only one who can open this. Please.
There's a painful silence hanging over the courtroom. All eyes are on Miss Andrews now as she solves the puzzle and takes the bear apart. I've opened it. Is this what you wanted?
What is that? Looks like a note.
I don't think we need to guess at what that is, do we, Mr. Wright? It's the suicide note.
Suicide note?
The suicide note left by Juan Corida's former manager, Celeste Impax. Until now, no one knew of its whereabouts. But just as we suspected, it was hidden. Hidden by the victim, Juan Corida himself. It seems Celeste Impax had very beautiful handwriting, and she just as beautifully signed her own name on this document. This is most definitely the note she left right before she committed suicide.
Order! Witness, did you know about this?
Yes, I did. I heard all about it from Juan. When I discovered his body, I looked for the bear. I wanted to destroy the note before it became public, but I couldn't find it anywhere, because it had already been taken by the killer. Everything is going at Mr. Edgeworth's pace. So now that the suicide note has been found, what's the next logical question? What is written on the note? That's right. At least, that's what I would think. Now then, I believe it is only appropriate the contents of this note be made known. I can't stop you, can I? I went through so much just to get my hands on it. And I was going to burn it, for her sake. I'm deeply sorry, but I can't allow you to persuade me to stop. Your Honor, if you could please read the contents of the note aloud.
Very well.
The judge's voice rang loud and clear through the deathly silent courtroom. In her note, Celeste Impax left to us a record of all that had happened to her. About being used and thrown away by a guard. About being engaged to Corida and a guard's role in destroying that. And about how she decided in her despair to end it all.
That's all Miss Impax had to say.
There is one thing I would like to say here. The prosecution has no interest in slandering Mr. On Guard.
Then what?
Our intention, Your Honor, is to establish a motive for murder. Isn't that correct, witness? Yes. On the night of the murder, Juan was going to make the contents of the note public. After the post-ceremony show, he was going to hold a press conference.
My word!
Madame values, above all else, his refreshing like a spring breeze image. Which is why he had to stop this note from being made public. At any cost. At any cost. Okay. Found inside the figurine, it tells of Vanguard's horrible misdeeds.
It's Vanguard's fault that woman killed herself.
And this time, he even went so far as to kill someone to stop him from revealing that. How terrible. What a selfish person. I guess there are slimeball lawyers out there who will defend these creeps, too. There was no room for doubt here. Mr. DeKeller's client's goal was to obtain this suicide note. And the only person who needed this note that badly is the defendant. Let's not forget that the bear with the note inside was found in the defendant's house.
Seems that we have come to the truth at last. The defendant's motives were entirely selfish. He deserves no sympathy from anyone.
How am I supposed to escape from this one? Why this hesitation, Phoenix? Gumshoe hasn't called yet, so you know what you must do.
I know. I have to carry on and buy him some more time.
Okay. There are two deadly pieces of evidence. Figurine and the suicide note. Maybe somehow I can find a way out of this situation through one of those. The gavel is ready in the judge's hand, Phoenix. Hurry.
Suicide note or the figurine. Which one of these should I pursue?
Please wait, Your Honor.
Oh man, look at that lawyer.
He's still going at it? It's like he doesn't care that he's trying to get a killer off the hook.
I think Your Honor believes that Matt on guard killed in order to obtain this note.
Yes, that is correct. But that seems a little strange. In fact, I think there's a contradiction here. This note was hidden by Mr. Corda until the night of the murder. If that is the case, I say that Mrs. Matt on guard could not have known that there was what was written on this note.
Oh, I didn't think of it that way.
Exactly. But I did think of it that way, and I thought it was rather strange. No one in their right mind would kill for a note without first knowing what it said.
Order! 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 You make a valid point, Mr. Wright. Mr. Edgeworth, what is your opinion?
It was just a flash, but I think I did rather well on this one. Unfortunately, I think he believes differently. I believe a show of appreciation is in order.
Huh?
The defense seems to be in love with wishing more despair upon himself. I would like to direct the court's attention to this.
What is that?
It is a very small video camera, Your Honor. This type of camera is commonly used as a means of spying.
Spying?
What the? I thought that spy camera was in my possession. Madame Guard and the victim both thought of the other as their biggest rival. They even went so far as to use this type of item to find each other's weaknesses.
And?
The victim, Juan Cordo, was being spied on. His personal life was being watched by none other than Matt on guard.
Order! Order! Mr. Wright!
Yes, Your Honor.
You, don't tell me you knew about your client's spying activities.
Well, sort of.
Sort of is not an acceptable answer, Mr. Wright.
I see you are confused, Mr. Wright. You're probably thinking, but I have the camera that was in the stuffed bear's eye. But this camera that I have is not the same one. Last night, I searched the victim's house on a hunch. Using this. Gumshoe's bug sweeper. By the way, Mr. Wright, the defendant's fingerprints were found on this camera.
Bet on Guard's fingerprints were on there.
Well, Phoenix, it looks like those cameras were hidden all over the place, huh?
What am I supposed to say to that evidence?
I think this is the end. Clearly obvious that Mr. Ungard learned of the suicide note through this. He was watching the victim all along.
You got me good this time. I don't have anything to counter that.
Hey, now what's that lawyer thinking?
Mommy, is that man the bad killer guy?
Shh, stop, don't look at him.
Wait, sweating is just so... Ew, nasty.
Phoenix. Yes, Chief?
Have you figured out what you're going to do next yet?
What I'm gonna do next? Does running away like a frightened child work?
I know it seems like Mr. Edgeworth is very close to putting the lid on this case, but in his eagerness to prove his point, he forgot one very important thing.
Well, what is it, Mia?
There's a piece of evidence that he really should investigate.
Something he should investigate?
I would really hate to see the good prosecutor get scolded for not remembering to look into the item when he had the chance.
Why are you speaking in riddles all of a sudden? Alright, I think this time we finally understand everything. Well, Mr. Wright, you don't have any further objections, do you?
What is this piece of evidence that Mia is talking about? Can I figure out what it is and that still needs to be looked at, or should I let it go?
Well, I gotta present something. I have an objection, Your Honor.
That was about the weakest objection I've ever heard, Mr. Wright.
Your Honor! The defense has no intention of letting this go so easily. You're beginning to sound desperate. That's just your imagination, Your Honor. Mr. Edgeworth, this is not like you at all. In your eagerness to prove your point, you've forgotten one very important thing.
Hey, isn't that what I just said? So you're telling me that I forgot something?
You're so close, Mr. Edgeworth. But there's something you really should examine about this piece of evidence. I don't know.
What if the handwriting doesn't match? Because we have something to compare it to. But I don't know.
Oh, that is Miss Impact's suicide note, right? Who knows?
I mean, sure, this suicide note was found inside this bear. But this bear was in my possession until only a few moments ago. Which means the handwriting on this suicide note has yet to be analyzed.
Oh,
So, as to whether this pivotal piece of evidence was really written by Miss Impax or not, that has yet to be even remotely confirmed.
Mr. Wright, you can't seriously be suggesting...
Mr. Wright, are you saying this suicide note is a fake?
Miss Andrews, you were the one who tried to pin this murder on Mr. Ungard. Who's to say you didn't create a fake suicide note and put it into this bear?
How dare you! Your Honor, the defense is indiscriminately accusing the witness again. There was no evidence linking the witness to the suicide note whatsoever.
But if this is a fake, then the witness is the only person who could have made it. What? Recall the witness's testimony concerning this figurine. The only person other than the victim who could solve the puzzle is the witness herself. Huh. Miss Andrews, you wrote this note, didn't you? You wrote it so you could use it to frame Matt on guard. I did no such thing. Right. If you're going to pronounce the suicide note a fake, then show this court some evidence to support your theory. Mr. Edgeworth, you were the one who presented this scrap of paper as evidence. That means the burden of proof lies with you, the prosecution.
That's enough. Mr. Edgeworth, can you confirm the handwriting on this suicide note?
It is as the defense has stated. The handwriting is yet to be analyzed.
If that's the case, it seems that yet again we have reached a point where a verdict is impossible.
That's impossible! This isn't good, Phoenix. The judge is going to carry this trial over one more day. I don't think Maya will physically be able to make it another day.
I didn't want to have to do this, but I don't have a choice. I request that both the prosecution and defense further investigate.
Handwriting analysis my butt. That's just the lawyer trying to buy more time. Guard is guilty. Look, any idiot can tell you that. I think we reached the end of the line. Guilty! 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 Damn.
What does that sound?
It's Gumshoe! Oh, Gumshoe! What is with him? And what's with that sigh? Where's Maya? What happened to the killer? He got away. What? I'm sorry, pal, I really am. I don't know what to say besides I'm sorry. I wish there was some way to make it up to you, I really do. Anyway, what's going on? We found his hideout, pal. But the two of them were already gone. This is terrible. I'm going to keep looking for them, pal. Don't you worry. I just need a little more time. But don't tell me we don't have any more. Do you hear that? They're calling for his head. Mr. Wright, I can't. For us to come this far and... Oh! What is it? Well, let me talk to Mr. Edgeworth. I can't do that.
Mr. Wright, would you please get a hold of yourself?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'm about to end today's proceedings. You may take your phone calls after.
Hold on, Your Honor. Edgeworth, catch! The image. Oh my god, I forgot about the fucking image. Mr. Edgeworth! Please, you gotta buy us some more time. Court is in session. I'm sorry, Your Honor. You were saying?
Mr. Wright, this is a court of law.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, but...
I am reluctant to do this. However, it appears that I have no choice but to suspend proceedings until tomorrow.
This time I really can't do anything.
Court is now adjourned for the day.
Please wait, Your Honor. Edgeworth?
What is it, Mr. Edgeworth?
I humbly request another 30 minutes of Your Honor's time.
Oh, for what purpose?
We can perform the necessary tests on this piece of evidence in that time.
But can you really obtain your results in 30 minutes?
I believe we can, Your Honor.
Well, wouldn't it be better if we adjourned for today and then reconvene tomorrow?
30 minutes. Please, Your Honor.
That is all I am asking for.
Please, Your Honor. Very well. At the prosecution's request, the court will take a 30-minute recess. But be advised that I will not allow another recess today. I'm not sure if this is helping or hurting us. The court will now take its final recess of the day.
2:04 p.m. Then in lobby number 3.
Right. Well, what's going on with Maya's situation?
The killer. It looks like he got away again. 30 minutes? We can't find her in that time. We can't find her in that time.
Report.
Ah, is that Mr. Edgeworth?
We don't have time. Just spit it out.
Right. Yeah, it looks like we just missed them, sir. But the killer left a few things behind by accident in his rush to get away.
A few things?
Can we use any of them as evidence? Oh, I thought you'd ask, pal. I've got the things he left with me right now, and I'm on my way over.
Really? That's odd. Any items like that are usually sent to the crime lab first.
We don't have time to wait for those guys, sir. When those guys aren't looking, I swiped the stuff and ran.
What?
Well, I'm not a detective anymore, so I had to... I'm really sorry, sir, but I've got to put the law on hold for now. Sounds bad. I hope he doesn't get in too much trouble over this. With my hunk-of-junk car, I'd say I'd be there in about 20 minutes, sir. Don't worry, I'll be there. Wait for me!
Alright. Just get here in one piece.
I'm on a mission, and no one can stop me now, sir. No one! I'm pulling out all the stops and running every red light.
Items left by the murderer, huh? Maybe there's something among them that will be decisive enough to end this. Hey, what's wrong? Detective Gumshoe, answer me.
No one can stop me.
What happened? Sounded like he had an accident. I'm guessing his cell phone broke as well.
What was he thinking? We've got to hurry and call for help.
But we have no idea where he is. His cell phone is broken, and he wasn't driving a patrol car, so no radio either. Also, if we don't get to those items before they do, the police will take possession of them.
No! We can't let that happen!
Well, if there is a way we can find out where he is, then we stand a chance.
Why, oh why did Gumshoe have to get into an accident now? Is there any way to find out exactly where he is at this moment? That's right! There is a way!
What? How?
I'm sure we can find out where Detective Gumshoe is through this.
Why are you bringing up Francisca at a time like this? Oh, I see. I'll try to get in contact with her. The chances are slim, but she's all we have.
Francisca. Will she even want to help us? Edgeworth.
What is it?
I don't have any right to judge anyone ever again. I know my client is guilty. But what I'm doing now, I'm pinning the guilt onto someone totally innocent, and using the evidence to do so. It might be my turn to say, defense attorney Phoenix Wright chooses death.
Right. Doesn't suit someone like you to cry useless tears. Whether you did your job well or not, that can only be seen after the verdict has been decided.
The verdict. Is Prosecutor Edgeworth here?
Yes, bailiff.
There's a phone call for you, sir. He said it was extremely urgent.
They're probably finished with the handwriting analysis. I have to go take this call. In the meantime, think hard about what it is you must do. Alrighty. March 23rd, 2:35 p.m. District Court, courtroom number 3.
Guilty. Guilty. Courtroom will now reconvene. I assume both sides are ready.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
I can understand the defense acting like this. However, why do you also seem distraught, Mr. Edgeworth?
That is... It's nothing, Your Honor.
What's wrong with Edgeworth? It looks like something unexpected just happened to him.
Now then, Mr. Edgeworth, if you could please tell the court the results of the handwriting analysis on Miss Impact's suicide note.
Yes, Your Honor. Unfortunately, we have discovered that the suicide note is a forgery.
What? What do you mean, Mr. Edgeworth?
This note was not written by Miss Impax herself. It is a fake.
Order! 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 Mr. Edgeworth, would you care to explain what is going on? If this was not written by Miss Impax, then who wrote it?
We would need more time to do a more detailed analysis. However, it appears that the handwriting matches that of the victim, Mr. Juan Corrida.
Mr. Corrida?
Well, well. It looks like Miss Impax never left a suicide note after all. She never wrote anything about Ungard. However, Your Honor, even though this suicide note is indeed a fake, Mr. Ungard could not have known that, and so that facts remain unchanged. Acting under the assumption that it was real, he had plotted to possess it.
That does sound very plausible.
This theory that Ungard had no idea that the suicide note was a fake. Something seems a little wrong with it. The defense believes that the theory the prosecution has stated contradicts testimony. If everything the prosecution has proven up to this point is true, then it's impossible for Mr. Ungard to not have known it was a fake. Like, not this specific spy cam, but he showed spy cams in the house.
What is this little item called again?
A video camera, Your Honor. Well, a very small one, but...
Oh, that's right, the camera. Oh, kids and your fancy toys nowadays.
Mr. Edgeworth, earlier you claimed that Mr. Ungard knew of the existence of this note, because he was spying on the victim. Isn't that right? If that were true, then this means Mr. Ungard would have known that the victim had forged the note.
So then, the defendant knew the suicide note was a fake. And if that's true, the situation has suddenly changed in a very dramatic way.
Exactly, Your Honor. The prosecution's theory as to what Mr. Ungard's motive for murder was. It has suddenly disappeared into thin air.
But, Your Honor, it's not as if Mr. Ungard monitored Mr. Corda 24 hours a day. Perhaps the victim wrote the note in a place Mr. Ungard didn't know of.
Well, right back at you, Mr. Edgeworth. Why don't you show us some proof that the victim made the forgery at an unknown place?
Order! 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 Mr. Edgeworth, looks like this time it is you who has dug his own grave.
As I figured.
Huh? As you figured?
As I figured. Came down to this after all.
Mr. Edgeworth, you're not making any sense.
When I heard the results of the handwriting analysis, I thought this might happen. The question is, what next?
What next?
If the prosecution can't prove Mr. Ungard's motive through the evidence, then we must prove it from another angle.
Well, I agree with you there.
Your Honor, the prosecution would like to call a witness to the stand at this time.
Oh, well, that's fine.
However, this witness is a little unusual.
Edgeworth stuttering? This is not like him at all.
Unusual? Well, what sort of witness is this person, Mr. Edgeworth?
This witness is one who is perfectly fit to answer once and for all the question of who was it that hired Shelley DeKiller to commit murder?
That's impossible.
Who in the... No such person exists who can answer that question with such certainty.
Yes, Mr. Edgeworth. Who is this witness?
It's...
Yes, go on. Who is it?
The man himself. Mr. Shelley DeKiller.
Oh, Mr. DeKiller. Wait, Shelley DeKiller. You mean the killer? The assassin.
Yes, Your Honor.
He's coming here, to the witness stand.
Well, yes, in a manner of speaking. I recognize that this is a very unusual circumstance, so I ask for your permission.
Well, Mr. Wright.
Yes?
Is this alright with you?
Do I have a choice here? I can't really do much else to drag this trial out. The defense has no objections, Your Honor.
I wonder if it really is alright to do this.
Very well, then. The prosecution calls its witness to the stand.
Edgeworth, is there no other way left to us?
Now then, witness. Your name and your, occupation, please.
Very good, sir. My name is Shelley DeKiller, and I am a professional assassin.
I say! What is going on here?
Your Honor.
How can you remain so calm? What is the meaning of this two-way radio?
Actually, Your Honor, it was delivered to me just now, and it came with a condition. As long as we do not trace its source, Mr. DeKiller will testify to this court.
So this must be what that urgent phone call he got earlier was about.
Oh no, this will not do. I cannot allow this in my court. First of all, we can't even be sure that this is really Mr. DeKiller himself.
Witness, please present some sort of proof that you are, in fact, Shelley DeKiller.
I understand. Please wait a second.
I'm so hungry.
Maya?
Maya!
A voice? Mr. Wright, can you confirm anything from this?
The defense has no objections to this person. We're satisfied that this man is indeed Shelley DeKiller.
Looks like we have run into yet another unexpected turn of events. Well, doesn't seem like we have too many choices under these circumstances, so...
Now then, witness. There is one thing I would like to confirm before we speak of anything else.
And what would that be?
At the request of a client, you killed Mr. Juan Corrida. Is this correct?
It is as you say. I did indeed kill Mr. Corrida.
Oh! Now that we have answered that, let's move on to the name of your client.
Very well.
This is all just a bad dream. Yes, that's it. A bad dream.
Shelley DeKiller. What is he going to say? About my client. There is something I must first state. To an assassin, nothing is more important than the trust between a client and himself. And that is the reason I am here today on this witness stand. It is my wish that you grasp this concept before I give the name of my client.
Mr. Killer seems to be a very clever man. I'd almost say he seems to be mocking us.
Well, he may appear to be our enemy, Your Honor. Mr. the Killer is only stating the truth. He is no hypocrite. He has always stood by this one belief.
You mean about this trust between his clients and himself thing? Seems to be a level of trust beyond what people like me can comprehend. Well, Mr. Wright, are you ready to cross-examine the witness?
Yes, Your Honor.
There's no way to know what's coming next, so stay cool and collected, Phoenix.
About my client.
There is something I must first state.
We can hear anything you have to say later. Can you please just tell us your client's...
I don't think you understand your place, Mr. Attorney. I said this is something I must first state. Do you know what the word first means?
Sorry. Go on.
Well, it appears this is one witness you can't badger, Mr. Wright.
That's only because you don't know about Maya's situation.
To an assassin, nothing is more important than the trust between a client and himself.
Trust between you and your client.
I provide my services in a fast and efficient manner. In exchange, I trust that my clients are discreet about me and my identity. If too many people knew my face, it would be quite troublesome.
And that is why you're testifying in this manner.
That is the first time one of my clients has ever been accused of murder. I must preserve the killer name so my clients can trust me.
But couldn't someone stab you in the back and break your trust?
It has never happened before, but if it ever did,
yes,
that person wouldn't be my client for very long. They would certainly...
That's enough! Please, no more!
Very well. It was only a hypothetical anyway. And that is the reason I am here today on this witness stand.
That seems a little strange to me. I mean, you're about to tell us the name of your client. I would think that this would be very bad for them.
It doesn't matter to me. This client has already broken the rules and acted outside of their prescribed role.
Their role?
This person tried to implicate another of the crime in order to save themselves. And that is a trespass that cannot be forgiven.
You? Who gave you the right to be so high and mighty?
The gentleman who spoke just now. Excuse me, but would you care to die?
Oh, no, I didn't say anything.
The judge had better watch himself.
It is my wish that you grasp this concept before I give the name of my client.
We understand, so please tell us the name of your client.
I'm afraid I cannot do that. I still have a few things to say before I do.
Ah, that egomaniacal...
It's not good for your health to be so aggravated. You won't live very long if you let everything bother you.
Somehow, that coming from an assassin makes it less than comforting. I don't really care about all this extra fluff, just tell us the name already.
Patience. Try to calm down a little. It's important to try to understand his mindset. He seems very steadfast and closed, so you're going to have to work to get him to talk.
I'm not his therapist, you know. Damn it.
Mr. Wright, I do say, you seem pretty stupid right now.
Oh. Okay. The trust between you and your client. I provide my services. I'm sorry, but I was wondering about something you just said. You said that your client had already broken the rules. A person who frames another is the worst kind of human. And that's why you feel you can betray this person? I have no trust relation with a client who can't understand their assigned role. Just my luck. An assassin with a conscience. Who would have figured? Now then, everyone, do you think you can understand my logic? This case just keeps getting better and better. If you can't, then I'm afraid we can't proceed. Everyone understands your point, I think. Really. In that case, I believe I am prepared to disclose the information you seek. You have made it crystal clear that you value trust over all else. I believe we are ready. Excellent. Now then, I do believe it's about time I revealed the name of my client. Don't you agree? What is it? Now I can't bring myself to ask the client's name. If you can't ask it, Mr. Wright, then I will. Witness. What is the name of your client who requested the murder of Mr. Juan Corrida? That person's name is... Adrian Andrews. What? Witness? That's not who you told me it was earlier. Pray tell, what are you talking about, Mr. Prosecutor? I should think I know my own client, and it is Adrian Andrews. What? This can't be on the phone earlier. What's going on here? My guess is that Mr. DeKiller just stabbed Mr. Edgeworth in the back. Stabbed Edgeworth in the back? I'm sure in order to get an audience with this court, Mr. DeKiller told him a different name. Matt on guard, perhaps. I knew it. This is outrageous! I was deceived! This witness is telling a very serious lie. But you were the one who summoned this witness! You... Shelley DeKiller. My testimony is the truth. The defendant at the moment is Matt on guard. Am I correct? All I wish to do is help procure his acquittal. Oh. Wow. All of a sudden, it feels like we can actually win this. Yeah. The prosecution has failed to provide a motive and has instead provided this suicide note, which is a forgery created by the victim. Furthermore, there's a possibility the defendant himself knew it was a fake. But most definitive of all, we have heard from the assassin himself the name of his client. Mr. DeKiller's client who requested the murder was not the defendant at all. No. With all this evidence, it is obvious to me that this means that Mr. Matt on guard is innocent. I seem to have caused you all a bit of confusion. Please, continue a discussion and call me when you have reached a verdict. Bailiff, please bring Miss Adrian Andrews in immediately. What now? With the way this is going, on guard will be found innocent. This may be our last chance. Save Maya. Yeah, but Edgeworth is right. The killer is lying. And on guard, my client, I know he's guilty. Can I live with myself if I win this? Who would have believed the prosecution's own witness would absolve the defendant? Your Honor, the prosecution requests permission to further question the witness. Shelley DeKiller is certainly lying under oath. It wasn't me. Listen, everyone, please. That testimony just now.
It was all one big lie.
Miss Andrews.
The suicide note may have been a fake. But that man, Matt, he's the reason Celeste died. And Juan's death, it was all because he got pulled into Matt's twisted world. That testimony just now, you have to believe me. It was a horrible, horrible lie.
But Mr. the Killer himself has testified. He has named you as his client.
No, that's not true.
Also, there's quite a bit of evidence that points to you. The knife, the button, donning the nickel samurai costume.
But that's...
You even have a motive. We know that Miss Celeste Impax was a large part of your life. You wanted to follow her, and you wanted revenge against the two who hurt you. I would say you have plenty of reason to want them both dead.
No. Mr. Wright! You know the truth. Tell them. Tell them the real story. Who the real killer is. Tell them. Please. Help me.
Yes, I know the truth.
Mr. Wright,
Yes, Your Honor.
I believe we have reached the end of this trial. Therefore, I ask the defense for any final words or opinions.
I have to decide. Do I take the not guilty verdict and save Maya? Or do I throw this chance away and wait for Gumshoe's new evidence? What am I supposed to do? Your Honor, the defense requests that... It's no use. I can't. Feels like I've lost my voice. Okay, well, fine. If it's not gonna let me do it now to get the bad end... Phoenix. I can't do it, Mia. I can't accept a not guilty. You are a lawyer. I know. But Matt Ungard is a killer. A murderer. I can't. I can't let him get away with this. I can't let someone else take the fall. If I let Miss Andrews be convicted, then I am no better than Ungard. And even though I don't want to admit it, I have to face the facts. That is because of Edgeworth that I now know the real truth. He could have gotten Ungard convicted so many times over, but he never took a single one of those chances. If I take this verdict right now, I'd be betraying his trust. His trust? I never thought about it until now. I trust him. Yes, you do.
Mr. Wright, your opinion, please.
The defense requests that we be allowed to further question Mr. the Killer.
Am I hearing you correctly, Mr. Wright?
Right.
But... That witness has cleared your client through his testimony. Your job here is done.
I'm not done yet. To see through witnesses' lies and find the truth. That is my job, Your Honor. There's still more evidence to look at. And I'm sure that once those pieces arrive here in this very courtroom, a miracle will occur.
Very well. The trial will continue. Mr. Edgeworth, please re-establish connection with Mr. the Killer.
Right away, Your Honor.
Has a verdict been reached?
Before that, we would like to talk with you a little more.
About? All you needed from me was the name of my client. What else could you need me for?
Well, actually, we would like to hear everything you know about this case. That is how things are usually done.
What is he talking about? Usually done?
But what shall we have him testify about now?
Mr. the Killer, if you don't mind, please testify about your client in more detail.
You legal people and your procedures.
Is it any wonder no one likes to go to court?
About my client part 2.
As I have already stated quite a few times, Adrian Andrews is my client. However, one thing I simply cannot overlook is tampering with the scene of the crime. My client did it to frame another for the crime, while pretending to be the first person to discover the body and enter the scene. Adrian Andrews already knew from the very beginning that Juan Corrida was dead. But even more appalling is the creation and planting of the knife and button. That act is what I was referring to when I said my client had broken the rules.
This is a most unexpected turn of events for the, 5th time now. However, this time, everything has finally been revealed.
Just a second, Your Honor.
Yes, Mr. Edgeworth.
We still have the cross-examination to do.
But you don't need to question testimony like this. Do you, Mr. Wright?
Your Honor, the defense will question the witness, as if I have a choice here.
Huh? Why? What this witness has said is nothing but beneficial to the defense's case. If you scrutinize the testimony, then
I'll expose the lies in that oh-so-beneficial testimony, I suppose.
I don't understand what's going on anymore.
That makes 2 of us. As I have already stated quite a few times, Adrian Andrews is my client. However,
What is it, Mr. Wright?
if I press him the wrong way, I might arise suspicions on his end. But I have to do something to waste more time. Witness, about requesting a hit.
Yes.
How much is your fee?
I see you are also quite a dark-hearted man, Mr. Attorney.
Huh?
If you would like to talk business, we can do so after the trial.
No. I'm not thinking of hiring Mr. Wright.
Yes.
You want to kill me? You want me dead, don't you?
What? Why would you think something like that, Your Honor?
Guilty, Mr. Phoenix Wright. You're hereby declared guilty.
Witness, let's continue. Why did you disclose the name of your client? They are your client, are they not?
One thing I simply cannot overlook is tampering with the scene of the crime. So you're saying most clients wouldn't do such a thing? That is correct. Usually, most people try to create an alibi for themselves. If you should use my services, Mr. Attorney, I would suggest you plan for your alibi too. No, I already told you, I have no intention of using your services. Ever. Why does he keep looking at me like I'm the one on trial here? Adrian Andrews already knew from the very beginning that Juan Corrida was dead. From the very beginning? That is correct. From before my client visited the room. All of my clients know precisely what the situation is at all times. I wonder if that's really true.
That's odd.
But even more appalling is the creation and planting of the knife and button. So, why do you think your client did that? What do you mean by why? Well, fiddling around at the scene of the crime is pretty risky. And why would someone who has requested a murder go to the crime scene anyway?
That is true.
I assume it was probably done to frame Mr. Ungard. that's the case, then why didn't the person just request that you do it?
Sadly, that is not possible. Huh? My job is to kill. That is all. And I leave my business card behind, naturally. The business card is so my clients may escape blame. To protect them is my duty. Even if they say it's for revenge, setting someone else up to take your fall. That act is what I was referring to when I said my client had broken the rules.
And that's all you have to testify?
Yes, and I pray that I will never be called to the stand again.
Again? As in you plan to continue?
I must, as I have yet to find a person to take my place and become the fourth successor. Actually, how would you like a new life, Mr. Attorney?
Excuse me? No, I'm fine. Really?
Are you really now? I wonder what kind of man the judge thinks I am now.
What are you going to do now, Phoenix? All I can do now is expose the lies. That's true. However, you realize that will be very bad for our client, right? Ugh, I'm so confused. The one thing I know for sure is that I can't let this trial end yet. Ah! I didn't mean to. Nope. Okay, it is that. Thank you so much for taking the time to testify, Mr. DeKiller.
What is the meaning of that attitude?
When Adrian Andrews entered the victim's room, your client had no idea that Juan Corda had been murdered.
But how? How do you know that?
From this wine glass, Your Honor.
The glass?
Mr. DeKiller's supposed client thought Mr. Corda had only fainted, which is why this glass of tomato juice was poured for the victim.
But isn't that just a part of Adrian Andrews' calculated plan?
That is not possible, Your Honor. This glass bears the fingerprints of that person. Had this been planted, they would never have left their fingerprints behind.
I see your point. Mr. Edgeworth, what is your opinion?
Strangely enough, I had the same exact thought just now. Witness, how do you explain this strange phenomenon? Isn't it a waste of time to ask about such a minor detail? It's not a very important point anyway, correct? I'm afraid you are mistaken. If Adrian Andrews really is your client as you claim, then your client should have knowledge of Mr. Corda's death. If not, then that can only mean that Adrian Andrews was never your client at all. How strange.
Yes?
Why is it that the attorney has yet to raise an objection at this absurd situation? Phoenix, if the killer figures out what we're up to, we're in real trouble.
Yeah, I know. Mr. Edgeworth, I'm surprised. You know you can't just say things like that without any evidence.
Sorry.
Oh, that was an awfully weak objection for the two of you.
Anyway, I'm positive there was a contradiction in that testimony. The prosecution requests further testimony concerning when the request was taken.
Very well. Right now, I have to buy us more time. While we wait for the items the killer left behind to get here. I just know that the very outcome of this trial lies with those items. Request taking. This request came to me, about a week ago. It was a request for my services on the night of the awards ceremony. We met at a certain bar to discuss and finalize a few matters. That is what occurred. I trust my memory, and I believe I have made no mistakes.
So you physically met your client, huh?
That is correct. Meeting one's client is the first step to building trust, in my opinion.
I see. Well, Mr. Wright, your cross-examination, please.
Request taking. This request came to me, about a week ago. 1 week ago? Are you sure? Yes, I am quite sure. I, of course, had my own preparations, and I was barely able to finish. When you request my services, Mr. Attorney, I hope you will keep that in mind. Please, stop. In any case, my client this time had a very specific date and time in mind. A specific date and time. It was a request for my services on the night of the awards ceremony. Did you ask why on that specific night? No. I tried to fulfill all the conditions of my client's requests. But as for why, I only had my suspicions. Your suspicions, huh? So what are these suspicions you had? Why did your client request that night? I'm sure it was all for the bear. The bear? My client spoke of it. I'm sure there will be a bear-shaped figurine in Juan Corrida's room. I would like you to retrieve that item for me. You must be talking about this bear puzzle. Inside that figurine was a suicide note. Naturally, the victim brought it with him to his hotel room. He was planning to publicly disclose its contents at the press conference after all. That is correct. And if I had not done the job that night, I would not have known where that bear figurine was. I see.
Well, Mr. Wright, was the testimony just now of any importance?
Testimony just now has made one thing clear, and that is, the client knew the secret of the bear figurine.
Huh? Why is everyone so quiet? Mr. Wright, I think all of us already knew that. Oh, really?
Witness, please continue with your testimony.
We met at a certain bar to discuss and finalize a few matters. So you physically met Adrian Andrews, right? Of course I did. What was that? What was with that brief pause? Witness, I would like for you to give us a few more details. I always meet my clients as a matter of principle. I have never taken a request by telephone or mail.
And why is that?
That's because I value trust between a client and myself above all else. And the only way to establish that is to speak to the client while looking them in the eye.
Well, Mr. Wright, was the testimony just now of any importance?
Of course it was very important, Your Honor. If Mr. DeKiller had met his client before the murder, then it's unlikely he is mistaken.
So you're saying that his client really was Adrian Andrews?
I guess so. You see, it is just as I said. I'm so lost. Who the heck am I supposed to be helping here? Calm down, Phoenix. Think carefully and relax.
Now then, will the witness please continue?
That is what occurred. I trust my memory, and I believe I have made no mistakes. So your client was Adrian Andrews? That is correct. Well, he says the two of them met, but if they did, then there shouldn't be anything wrong with DeKiller's testimony. Well, there doesn't seem to be anything strange this time around. You have to draw more information from him, but you can't draw his suspicion. If you can do that, you should be able to find a flaw in his testimony somewhere. Talk about a delicate balance. Even if I asked about them, it would only be a guess. I see. That's fine then. Probably just my imagination. I need to find something more definitive to catch this guy on. Can we believe that your testimony up to this point has been reliable? What are these suspicions? Why did your client request that night? It was all for the bear. What the killer said sounds plausible, but in the end it's just his conjecture. No, Your Honor. I don't think it's very important.
Well then, witness, please continue.
Why he met his clients is not important, and that wasn't the point. Witness, please stop sidestepping my questions. What do you mean by that? My question was, did you really meet Adrian Andrews in person? I have already told you, Mr. Wright. I did. It was only through talking with him face to face that I began to trust him. That's when I thought I can trust this person as a client.
True what they say about talking face to face. Well, Mr. Wright, has the testimony just now been of any importance?
I heard what I think I just heard just now. Then I think I've got him. Your Honor, I believe the testimony just now was of the utmost importance.
Oh, really?
If that's the case... Witness, please include the statement just now in your testimony.
Very well. From the moment I saw him, I thought I can trust this person as a client. But as we now know, that was not how it turned out, correct? What do you mean? Adrian Andrews turned out to be a client who couldn't stick to the rules, right? Well, yes. I suppose you are correct.
So I would like to check one last thing. Are you sure your testimony is accurate?
I would like to go over this one more time. You met Adrian Andrews at a bar and took the request at that time. Yes, that is correct. And that's when you thought he was trustworthy? How many times must I repeat myself? Yes, that is correct. I'm sorry, but that is an impossible tale. What? Silly to kill her. You have never met the real Adrian Andrews. Why would you say that? Because you made one very big slip-up. About her. So what is the issue? What did you just say now? About her? If you had ever met Adrian Andrews in person, one look would have told you that she is a woman. Oh! Order! Order in the court! Mr. Wright, what is the meaning of this? This witness testified to the following. That he always meets face-to-face with his clients when taking their request. What? But he has never met Adrian Andrews in person. Yes, Your Honor. That is exactly the point. That means Mr. DeKeller's client could not have been Miss Adrian Andrews. Ugh. Mr. Edgeworth, I understand your logic on this one. However, why would the assassin make such a basic mistake? I believe it has to do with her name, Your Honor. Her name? Yes. Adrian Andrews is, without a doubt, a very androgynous name. Yes, I see. Unluckily for Mr. DeKiller, the entire time he was on the stand, no one had stated Adrian Andrews' gender. And so, he simply picked the wrong gender to go with. What? What is going on? Shelley DeKiller! This court demands an explanation. I think somehow I have mixed up this client with another. So does that mean you remember something different now? Yes, of course. Please, if you would allow me to testify once more. I know he's just going to spit out more lies. Very well. This time, please give us the truth, and nothing but the truth. Request taking part 2. Yes, now I remember. I took that request by mail. There have been many times where I took a job without having met my client. The request was for the murder of Juan Corrida and 2 or 3 other small things. When I saw the name at the end of the letter, I thought my client to be a man. So you took this job through a letter. He didn't mention anything about a letter in his earlier testimony. Which means he's definitely lying. Be careful, Phoenix. If you break the assassin's testimony completely, it's over for us. I know, I can't make him suspicious, but I think we're okay. Like, we can do this. As long as he's standing there across from me. No matter how strong of a punch I throw, he'll counter it. Now then, let's begin the cross-examination. Yes, now I remember. I took that request by mail. But didn't you just say that you always meet your clients? Yes, I suppose I did say that. However, there are some clients for whom a meeting is simply not possible. But didn't you meet your client this time? No, I did not. Oh, come on now. Let's stop with this game of cat and mouse. Using your silkiest voice is not going to work on me. Alright then, just cough it up and confess! Mr. Wright, you can't badger a witness with such harsh words. You're a lawyer, so behave like one and present evidence instead of mindlessly yelling. Now then, do you have any proof that Mr. Killer met with his client? I'm sorry, Your Honor. Unfortunately, I don't have any proof. I see. Then your line of questioning was just another waste of time.
Sadly for us, Your Honor, that is the nature of right and wrong.
There have been many times when I took a job without having met my client.
And why would you not meet certain clients?
Recently, I have been receiving more requests. If I met each and every client, I would lose some nice business opportunities.
Nice business opportunities?
On top of which, the times have changed. It is now the age of information and computers, correct? Well, I have joined the times, and now take requests via electronic mail.
Electronic mail? You have to mail that in a special insulated envelope?
I'm very sorry. I despise the shortening of words. What I meant by electronic mail is what is commonly referred to as email.
Email? In a contest of mimicry, the judge would beat a parrot. Hands down.
Anyway, so you took this job without having met your client, and...
The request was for the murder of Juan Corda, and 2 or 3 other small things.
2 or 3 other things?
Yes.
And what were these other things?
A few other things that have nothing to do with this case.
What should I do? Should I let him slide with that? It'd be really bad if I pushed his buttons the wrong way and got him mad. Whether or not they're related to this case is for the court to decide.
Mr. Attorney.
Yes?
Everything I have said from the beginning has been nothing but beneficial to your client, which is why I wonder what is pushing you to continue with this cross-examination. Could it be that you are planning to betray your own client?
That's...
I smell the stench of a backstabber. And should you turn out to be one...
Wait! Uh-oh. This is looking really bad. I shouldn't press my luck. Alright, I have to think. Is this worth pursuing? Witness, this is a very important matter. Please cooperate and tell us what these other jobs your client requested were.
If it's truly that important, I suppose I don't have much of a choice. The bear figurine.
The bear figurine?
After the assassination of the target, I was to find that figurine. I was told that this job was just as important as the actual killing.
And where was that figurine?
It was inside Mr. Corda's suitcase.
And then, what did you do next?
I handed it over to my client right away.
You gave it to your client? Interesting. This information certainly sounds important to me. Witness, please include what you just stated in your testimony.
As you wish. One of these was to find the bear figurine and to give it to Adrian Andrews.
I found this figurine at Mr. Ungard's mansion. If he gave it to Miss Andrews, then what was it doing there?
I was waiting for her there. That was also part of the plan to frame Mr. Ungard, I'm sure.
Makes a lot of sense. Oh, Mr. Wright, do you have any problems with this piece of testimony? No use. As long as I can't put my finger on the central problem here, pressing this witness any more would be extremely dangerous. Appears that Mr. Wright has no problems. Well then, witness, please continue.
When I saw the name at the end of the letter, I thought my client to be a man.
So you're saying that you never saw your client's face? Not even once?
I did. Once. It was when I went to give my client the figurine.
Yes, I see.
But Miss Andrews was wearing a mask at the time.
A mask? The Nickel Samurai mask, I'm guessing.
Mr. Wright, what do you have to say about this? Do you have any problems with this piece of testimony?
I think I could pull something out of what he said, but it would be real bad if I did something that made him mad over something trivial. There's no problems with that testimony, Your Honor. We've pretty much reached the end of our rope here. Huh? Seems like we're still okay to me. And that's exactly what is so bad. At the rate we're going, we will end up completely destroying the killer's lie. If we do that, you already know how serious of a situation that will put us in. Oh, yeah. All I can do now is pray that those items reach us in time. One thing does sort of stick out to me, Your Honor. Witness, I think you most definitely saw your client's face. Let's recall Mr. Power's testimony.
After the awards ceremony, I went by myself to Matt's room. Matt was standing there in front of his room, still in his nickel samurai costume. Matt gave the bellboy a tip.
You received quite a large roll of cash from Mr. On Guard. And at the time, he was not wearing his nickel samurai mask.
Oh! Order! Order! Yes, now that you mention it, I do remember that. Witness! Yes, that night I did wander the floor as a bellboy. Received plenty of tips that night for carrying juice to the various rooms. Is that so wrong? Huh? The man who gave me that tip was not my client. He was probably just a very generous person.
I'm sorry, but sadly, we are not nearly so generous here. If I could receive large rolls of cash by simply bringing people things on trays, then why on earth would I stand around here prosecuting?
Oh, the deja vu. And isn't its salary more than enough for one man?
And where's your evidence that the large roll of cash was not, in fact, a tip? Come, Mr. Edgeworth. Show me the money.
What?
Mr. Attorney. Yes? You know, I think your line of questioning has been a little strange. In fact, I would say you don't seem to believe Miss Andrews is my client.
Oh, no, it's not like that at all. I just think lies aren't a good thing, you know?
Oh, I know and agree. Lies are not a good thing at all. I think we are on the same page now, aren't we, Mr. Attorney? Remember, if I feel threatened in any way, I am free to cut contact at any time.
I'm sorry, please forgive my foolishness.
Only you were this apologetic all the time. Anyway, I do not see a huge contradiction here. Therefore, you may continue, witness.
So the killer says he gave the figurine to Miss Andrews. But I know somewhere in that statement there's a contradiction. And yet, I know that if I present something trivial here, he will cut the connection on his end. If you want to make a strong point, Phoenix, you have to present strong evidence. He's right. So now what? Dr. Wright? Witness, let's go over this one more time. You gave Miss Andrews the bear figurine, and she told you to take the bear and wait for her at the unguarded mansion? Is that correct?
Yes. Where are you going with this?
Well, I think maybe you might have remembered a few things incorrectly. What? This is the battle of wits. I can't let up on him. I don't think it is possible for Miss Andrews to have been the recipient of this bear. Nope. Oh. Shelly to kill her. If you had really given the bear to Miss Andrews, then this item should not have been inside it. This item.
I see where you're going.
Yep, that's where I'm going. Where's everyone going? Do I need to pack a suitcase? Your Honor, please think back to Miss Andrews' testimony.
And I was going to burn it. For her sake.
If even for a single minute, this bear had actually been in Miss Andrews' hands, I'm sure she would have taken the suicide note out and burned it. Order! 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 So, that's where you two are going.
So by the very fact that the suicide note was still inside the bear, it tells us that your client didn't know how to disassemble the puzzle.
Which means...
It means, Your Honor, that it is impossible for Adrian Andrews to be the client.
Oh! Order! Order! Order!
Mr. Phoenix Wright.
I'm sure I mentioned this before. How I hate traitors above all else. I think your cross-examination has clearly demonstrated something to me. You must wish to break your end of our agreement. No, that's enough. If that is your intention, then there is only one thing for me to do. Wait, please! Gentlemen, ladies, please excuse me. I have a matter that I must attend to. No! Please! Not that! Please wait! Mr. Attorney, bring this trial to a speedy end, and I may stay my hand. Otherwise... Ugh. What in the... Mr. Wright? Are you... Mr. Edgeworth?
Yes, Your Honor.
I didn't understand this witness's outburst just now. Do you think there is a need to hear more testimony? Or is this enough?
Well, we should...
Edgeworth, we can't do this. If we keep this up, Maya, she'll...
The prosecution...
What has come over everyone? Even you are...
The prosecution... rests.
What is going on around here?
The prosecution has no further questions, Your Honor.
What?
Well, never thought I'd see the day. This is a most unusual situation. If the prosecution rests with no further questions, then the prosecution has failed to uphold its stance. If that is the case, then even though I am reluctant, I must believe that Mr. DeKiller's testimony is accurate. That would mean that Shelley DeKiller's client is Adrian Andrews. Mr. Wright. Yes, Your Honor. If I end the trial here right now, then your client, Matt on guard, would be declared innocent. And in his place, Adrian Andrews would be charged with murder. Miss Andrews would be charged with murder. The prosecution has no further questions, so we will now hear the defense's final remarks. Bailiff, please bring the defendant, Matt on guard, to the stand.
The items from DeKiller's hideout didn't make it in time. We tried as hard as we could, but it looks like our time has run out. I can't believe it. The outcome now lies in your hands.
Dude, did the old guy finally decide? Be honest, I don't think of you as a truly innocent and good person. You have done enough evil to drive a woman to suicide. But, at least on the charge of murder, it would appear you are innocent. So, guess even the old fuddy-duddy figured me out. Mr. On guard? What an atrocious lawyer I have. Giving his own client up like that. Like this. And that refreshing like a spring breeze crap. It's just as atrocious. Don't you agree? Anyway, get on with it and pronounce me innocent already. Right, Mr. Lawyer? Should I side with justice? Or should I save Maya's life?
You'd better get on guard a guilty sentence, okay?
But if I did that, Maya will die. But if I say he's innocent, then Miss Andrews will be charged as the murderer. Do I say he's guilty or not guilty? Either choice I make, someone's life is going to end. It all hinges on what I choose. Now then, Mr. Wright, let's hear the defense's final statements on this matter. If the person who hired the assassin was Adrian Andrews, then your client, Mr. Matt on guard, is innocent. There's no need to ask, old man. After all, my lawyer's gonna say what I want. Aren't you?
Right.
I can't do this. But I have to decide something. I can't count on the evidence to help me anymore. I have to listen to my heart. My client, Matt on guard, is... We're waiting for your answer, Mr. Wright. Matt on guard, your client deserves an answer. Maya, I'm sorry. Matt on guard is... Franziska von Karma! What are you doing here? Ow!
You see now, don't you, Mr. Phoenix Wright? This is exactly why you should never take your eyes off that scruffy fool. Did you bring them? The final pieces? Do you have them? You should know better than to ask that, Mr. Miles Edgeworth. A Von Karma is perfect in every way. The evidence is here in perfect condition. Don't worry about Scruffy. He's fine, and his injuries are minor. All of the items are inside this.
What a filthy old coat this is. That's Gumshoe's. I can spot his tattered rags anywhere.
I apologize for its ugliness, but there was nothing else to wrap the items in.
I fought long and hard this whole trial, all for what is inside that raggedy coat. I'm sure that inside that coat lies a crucial piece of evidence. Your Honor, inside that filthy coat are the defense's final pieces of evidence. Your final evidence? This trial is already over. All that remains is for me to hand down my verdict. I do not believe that any evidence presented now would change the outcome of this trial. What?
Your Honor, it is our duty to examine every piece of evidence, down to the last. I request that Miss Von Karma be allowed to present these pieces of evidence.
I suppose you are right, Mr. Edgeworth. I grant permission to do so. However, this one obvious rule applies here. If these items do not bring up any new points, then they will not be accepted by this court. Now, Miss Von Karma, if you please.
These pieces of evidence are items left by DeKiller during his escape from the police.
He must have been in quite a rush.
Yes, Your Honor. DeKiller left 3 pieces of evidence.
Somewhere among the evidence we're about to see, there will be something that will turn this whole situation around. Like a miracle. I'm sure of it.
This is all we can hope for. The first item is a pistol.
Does DeKiller's pistol have anything to do with this case? Does that pistol have any relation to this case?
We have yet to perform a ballistics test, so I can't say anything for certain. However, I believe it has something to do with this case. At least with me. That's the pistol that I used to shoot you, isn't it? That's what I believe, yes.
Oh.
I kept the bullet they removed from my shoulder as a sort of memento. I'm sure it will be an excellent sample for the test.
So that's the pistol that was used to shoot Franziska. It's probably not going to help us very much. Small caliber pistol that is thought to have been fired by DeKiller at Franziska.
The second piece of evidence is this videotape.
I bet DeKiller took that from Ungard's mansion. Have you checked the contents of that tape?
Unfortunately, there was no time to.
Oh yeah.
But I would speculate that this tape is very important.
Why would you say that?
Because he came back to his hideout for it.
DeKiller went back for it?
That's right. It looks like he was trying to recover it. He injured 3 of the officers at the site. But somehow it looks like they managed to protect it from DeKiller. Shelly DeKiller is no ordinary man.
One of the items retrieved, DeKiller violently tried to recover it. Contents unknown.
The last piece of evidence is this bellboy's uniform.
Is that a uniform from the Gatewater Hotel? Was that used during the crime?
I am almost certain it was. There's even a pair of black leather gloves in one of the pockets.
There's no doubt about it. The killer was wearing this on the night of the murder.
There is one thing I found interesting about this uniform. And what is it? There's a button missing on this uniform. A button? It's a very unique button. I'm sure if we were to recover it, it would provide us with an interesting clue.
Worn by DeKiller on the night of the murder, one of its special buttons is missing.
That is all I have to present, Your Honor.
Just as I thought. And what is that, Your Honor? I'm sure we were under normal circumstances. These items from Shelly DeKiller's hideout would be very important clues. However, our question is not who did the killing.
It is who is the client.
Yes, that is correct. And these 3 items do not tell us anything about that. Thank you for your hard work, Miss Von Karma. You may step down now.
Wait, Your Honor! Please allow me to examine this new evidence.
Overruled. This court already has all the evidence it needs to hand down a verdict.
Wonderful. Absolutely splendid. This judge is such a brilliant man, isn't he? Is this the end? Phoenix. I knew it. There's no such thing as a miracle in this world, is there? I think you're wrong. I think they do exist. But you have to make that miracle happen. You've come this far. You can't give up now.
But, no matter how you think about it, it's...
Try. For my sake. Just think about it for a second. There are two ways out of this situation for us.
Two?
The first. Make Ungard wish from the bottom of his soul for a guilty verdict.
Huh?
The killer will always place his client's wishes first. If Ungard himself wishes to be convicted, then he will let his hostage go.
That may be true, but that's asking me to do the impossible.
The second way. Force the killer to end his contract with Ungard. If the killer were to no longer think of Ungard as his client, then he would let Maya go.
Mia, that's even more impossible. He is a man who values his duty towards his clients above all else.
I know both of these seem like impossible feats at first. But if you could make either one happen, it could truly be a miracle.
The bigger problem is, the judge has already said he doesn't need any more evidence. The pieces he was just shown, he's not accepting them.
Phoenix, think things through from the other side. Isn't that what has always worked for us?
The other side? Wait, does she mean... You mean to turn things around?
Phoenix, the judge says he doesn't need the evidence. If that's the case, then who does need it?
The person who needs the evidence?
The defense, prosecution, and the judge. We have seen all the pieces of evidence. And that is how we have come to know the truth. But there is one person who has yet to see them all. And that person does not know the truth. That truth, it may be what will bring about the miracle in the end.
There's no objections this time, correct? Now then, I will pronounce my verdict.
Why don't we all respectfully sit back and listen, kids?
I have already told you, Mr. Wright. This court does not need any more evidence.
I'm not saying it is us that needs the evidence, Your Honor.
Then you want to show the evidence to that person?
Yes, Your Honor.
Please, Your Honor. Mr. Wright, for you to ask with such passion, I will grant you one chance.
One chance?
Please show your evidence to who you think is the right person.
That's impossible. To turn the situation around in one try.
One try. That is all I will permit.
I have to try to remember everything that has happened up to this point. Think, Phoenix. Think. There must be a way to save Maya while taking Ungard down at the same time.
Now then, Mr. Wright, let's not waste any more time. Who would you like to show evidence to? I see. And now, tell this court what one piece of evidence you would like to show this person.
I'd like to let Francisco know that I'm a lawyer.
Well, what do you think, Mr. Edgeworth?
I don't have anything to say to this.
How about you, Miss Von Karma?
Well, I was just shot, so...
I'm afraid I cannot allow the defense to continue. What? No one understands what you are talking about anymore.
Wait, please, one more chance.
That is enough, Mr. Wright. I will now state my verdict. This court finds the defendant met on guard. That is all. This court is adjourned.
And just like that, the case came to an end. I ran away from the courtroom and wandered the streets alone. I never saw Maya again. The killer is a man of his word, so I'm sure he released her as promised. I heard the verdict of Miss Andrews' trial a few days later. She was found guilty, of course. The miracle never happened. Maybe it was never meant to be. Because a miracle is something that doesn't exist. Justice ill served. Get the bad ending. This is the only game that has a bad ending. Anyway.
Now then, let's not waste any more time. I see. And now, tell this court what one piece of evidence you would like to show this person. Well, what do you think, Mr. Edgeworth?
I think there is some merit in showing this evidence to that witness.
Wait, please bring in the transceiver from earlier.
Alright. Looks like I managed to convince him. Maya, she's okay, right?
Didn't I tell you to concern yourself with bringing about a speedy end to this trial? Now, if I understand correctly, you wish to show me one piece of evidence.
Yes, one is all I need. I have here a videotape. It was found at your hideout. I heard you injured 3 officers in your attempt to get this back.
That was most regrettable. However, it was an order from my client. I was told to protect that videotape.
I thought so.
I'm afraid I seem to have failed in that regard.
Do you know the contents of this tape?
I was sternly told by my client to not watch it, though I have absolutely no idea.
Actually, you were on this tape.
Me?
There was a video camera hidden at the crime scene. Your actions were being recorded.
What?
Is that true, Mr. Wright?
Who was it that planted a camera?
Well, the only person who could have placed a camera at the scene of the crime would be your client, naturally.
That was Adrian Andrews.
Be quiet and listen, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Your client specified a place and time for you, isn't that right?
Yes.
That was so they could film you.
I had no idea. Mr. Wright, why would my client do such a thing? I would like to know why.
Why did Matt on guard film the crime scene? The reason why he did that is my ticket out of this whole mess. There's only one reason why your client would secretly film the crime scene. They wanted to blackmail. Your client once told me something very interesting. We were talking about you, and this is what they said.
But I'm no weakling. I don't believe anyone, least of all assassins.
Oh, come now, Mr. Wright. Assassins aren't above blackmail.
Yes, that's where the video comes in. With that, I can keep him at bay, and even blackmail him if I want.
Your client didn't trust you at all. They were thinking of using this video to blackmail you. What do you have to say to that, Shelley the Killer?
Oh.
It looks like I was being deceived from the very beginning. Yes, by a natural. That is the kind of person they are. Your client is a person who only thinks and plots of how to use the people around them. Protect themselves from any and all dangers that may arise. That is the true nature of your client.
I have one question for the witness.
Yes.
You told us one thing numerous times during your testimony. You said that you detest traitors most of all.
Yes, that is right.
But what if that traitor was your own client? What would you do then?
That's obvious. I would break our contract in that case. And then, that client would become my next target. For the honor of the Killer name, even if it takes an eternity, I would follow that person to the ends of the earth to exact my punishment.
I see. That's all I wanted to know.
So the traitor becomes the killer's next target. Ah, I get it. This is how we'll turn this case around. Mr. Wright. Yes? My contract with my client is over as of now. I seem to have a new job on my hands. I will now return to you your precious item.
What the? I'm not an item!
Maya, I thought I'd never see you again. Oh, thank God.
This trial appears to have come to its conclusion. However, actually, I am sort of... I don't quite know what just happened there with the client and the witness and... Oh! Miss Von Karma, where did that...
She always has you in her sights. Now, I do believe it's time to finally hand down a verdict.
Mr. On Guard, it looks like somehow you got what you wanted. You will finally receive the acquittal you wanted so badly. You should be happy.
But before that, I would like to make one final statement. Sometime in the near future, one very betrayed assassin may appear before you. Needless to say, that man is very good at what he does. I'm sure you would understand what I mean if you watched this video.
Help me?
Now then, Your Honor, the verdict, if you please.
Is this alright with you, Mr. Wright?
We have finally reached the end of a very long battle. Whether he's convicted or acquitted, there is no escape for him now. Go on, Phoenix. Plead whichever way your heart tells you.
Right, Chief. Congratulations, Mr. Matt on Guard. Please make sure to savor every moment of what little time you have left. Your Honor, as always, the defense pleads not guilty.
Very well. This court finds the defendant, Matt on Guard.
Hold it! Please, wait.
What's the matter?
If I get a not guilty, I'll be killed. I'm
As always, looks like we have uncovered the real truth.
We? I don't remember you helping out much in this.
Mr. Edgeworth, how is Matt on guard?
I have left Miss Von Karma in charge of his incarceration. I'm sure he's getting a full course meal of whip leather right about now.
Very good. That was a close one, wasn't it, witness?
Yes. I plan to pay my debt to society for my own crime, Your Honor. The first time I was called to the witness stand during this trial, all I felt was despair.
She must be talking about the time Edgeworth really went after her. I guess she's trying to forgive him for what he did.
This witness, how should I put this? She has an illness. If you're going to say you would choose death, that is of no concern to me. But after that, when I was alone at the detention center, that's the first time I really saw myself for who I am. And today, when the two of you used your combined strength to convict Matt, I felt like I had finally been saved.
Wow, this is the first time I've ever seen her smile.
I am really happy that you two were in charge of this case. I really don't know how to express I feel at this moment. This is the first time I felt comfortable with myself, with who I am. Thank you so much, everyone.
Looks like we have resolved everything at last. As for myself, there are still a few things I'm confused about. But everyone seems to be in good spirits. And that is good enough for me. That is all. This court is adjourned.
"5:14 p.m.
You were great out there, Phoenix.
What I did out there was right, wasn't it?
This is the first time you've not gotten your client off. You got them a guilty verdict this time. But you have to look past all of that. What's really important? You now realize that there is something more than just getting a not guilty, right?
Yes, I understand now.
Phoenix, think back for a second. Think to the moments before Miss Von Karma arrived with the final pieces of evidence. Think about the incredible decision you had to make.
Now then, Mr. Wright, let's hear the defense's final statements on this matter.
I can't count on the evidence to help me anymore. I have to listen to my heart. Should I side with justice or should I save Maya's life? My client, man on guard, is...
Is he guilty, or is he not guilty? Those were your choices then. And your answer spoke to what being a lawyer means to you.
Right.
Edgeworth.
I have good news. Maya's safe in police custody.
Really?
Pearls?
You're telling us the truth, right, Mr. Edgeworth?
Yes, she's quite safe. She's on her way here as we speak in a patrol car.
Mystic Maya. Mystic Maya's safe. You did it. You really did it, Mr. Nick.
Ow! She punches deceptively hard for a kid.
I believed in you. I kept saying to myself, Mr. Nick will save her. Mr. Nick will save her.
Thanks!
Oh,
What's wrong?
Miss Von Karma.
About earlier, thanks.
Ow!
Why are you still smiling, Mr. Phoenix Wright? You lost! Your perfect win record has now been crushed. And yet, you are still happy?
I don't think you'll ever understand, Miss Von Karma.
How dare you? Don't worry. She may in time. After all, I was like that myself until a year ago.
Edgeworth.
For my own personal victories, and for guilty verdicts. I used every dirty trick in the book, and so my win record remained spotless. But a man appeared and stood fast against that selfish me. I fought him in my usual manner, and tasted my first defeat. I felt like I had lost everything because of that. And then it was my turn to sit in the defendant's chair. And I was saved by that person I called my enemy. I couldn't forgive myself for all that had happened, so I left the prosecutor's office. And I left that note. Prosecutor Miles Edgeworth chooses death. As you should have. A prosecutor who has shamed himself with defeat should crawl into a hole and die. But that was not what happened. After I left the prosecutor's office, I finally came to realize something. And it was in that moment of clarity that everything began to change. What foolish nonsense! We prosecutors use anything we can to attack the defendant. But every time we did so, no matter how desperate the situation, instead of giving up like most people, that man would hold strong with his undying faith. And then, before I knew it, I began to trust in that man as well. What? You trusted your enemy? It doesn't matter how many underhanded tricks a person uses. The truth will always find a way to make itself known. The only thing we can do is to fight with the knowledge we hold and everything we have, erasing the paradoxes one by one. It's never easy. We claw and scratch for every inch. But we will always eventually reach the one single truth. This I promise you. The truth? Yes, that's the reason why prosecutors and defense attorneys exist. But I'm sure you knew that already, didn't you, Wright? That's why you couldn't forgive me. This man who went into hiding. Isn't that right? This man who only had his sights set on victory, who ran away into the night.
Ah! Is Mr. Edgeworth right, Mr. Nick?
You really let me down. When you disappeared, I felt betrayed. The reason I decided to become a lawyer to begin with was because I believed in the things you said to me. All those years ago. And you betrayed your own words. That's why, 1 year ago, I made up my mind. I decided that the Miles Edgeworth I knew had died. At least, that's what I told myself. You pathetic fool!
Miss Von Karma?
I don't want to hear the wretched whimpering of a disgraced loser. Karma is someone who is destined to be perfect. Miles Edgeworth, you are no longer worthy. You are no longer worthy of being a Von Karma. And neither am I. It's over. It's all over. Francisca threw something on the ground just now. This is an electromagnetic receiver.
Isn't this the thing she used to track Detective Gumshoe?
I'll return this to the precinct later. There's something else.
Ah! Isn't that Miss Von Karma's whip?
I'll never set foot in another courtroom again. Now I'm sure that's what she's saying by this action. You should keep this, right?
Okay.
Nick!
Maya!
Mystic Maya!
I ain't crying. He's got such big hands.
Oh, Nick, I knew you would come through. You got Unguard convicted like I knew you would. And on top of that, you even rescued me.
Well, of course I did. You know I wouldn't never desert you. But we sure press our luck this trial. You're really lucky to be standing here.
Whatever, whatever. Look, it's over, okay? Besides, if I did croak, I would just come back and haunt you like a bad ghost through Pearly.
Is it really that easy to do something like that?
Thanks a lot, Nick.
Don't mention it.
Oh, Mr. Edgeworth.
I'm relieved you're alright.
Hey, looks like you've made some real progress, Mr. Edgeworth.
Well, I suppose I'm a little different from who I was a year ago.
All right. I think it's time we got out of this depressing place.
Where are we going?
Food, Nick. Food, grub, chow. I'm starved. I'm so hungry, even you look like a nice juicy burger on a bun to me, Nick.
You think I look like a burger? I'm a prime rib, at least.
Come with us, Mr. Edgeworth, please?
If you insist. Alright, so how about we hit up our usual burger joint?
Don't be silly, Nick.
Huh?
This case messed up that awesome evening and got in the way of my gourmet meat food. So I've decided that we have to make it up by having another feast.
Another feast?
Come on, Nick. Food!
March 23rd, 7:38 p.m., Gatewater Hotel lobby. Hey, pal! Sorry to keep guys waiting. Gumshoe, are you alright? Yeah, but I'm really embarrassed. I didn't think I would hit a telephone pole of all things. A telephone pole? Then it wasn't a red light that got him? You did it again, city boy! Felt like my dear old heart was gonna give out on me, and I ain't joking. Yeah, it was more exciting than the very last episode of The Steel Samurai. Thanks. Now looky here, Mr. Snooty Prosecutor. Don't you reckon you bullied Mr. Wright too hard? If you don't start being a lot nicer to him, he might just kick it. Tonight even. I'll keep that in mind. Well, come on now. Everyone gather around. Y'all are gonna get your picture taken by a genuine professional photographer. Looks like a lot of bought herself a new camera. Well, pal, at least we can put this messy case behind us now. Come on, tonight's all about eating, so let's go chow down, pal.
Amen to that, pal. Amen.
You know, when you think about it, you were the one who saved the day, Detective.
Me? Yeah, you really think so?
He's right. If it wasn't for the 3 items you took, I think this trial would have had a very different ending.
Well, you know, it's... Wait. That's odd. When I ran off with the things from the killer's hideout, I was sure I took 4 things in total, sir.
What? 4?
Yeah, I'm sure I put one of the items in my coat pocket. It was a 4th item.
No, come on, y'all. It's over. But oh boy, I tell you, you really are something else. Between getting accused of murder and getting kidnapped, never a dull moment with you, huh? Ha 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 ha. You think?
Why does she look so happy about that?
But being shut away for 2 whole days? Weren't you scared? Yeah, it was really scary. I felt so hopeless. So to keep my mind off of things, I drew a picture. Sounds like you had it rough, gal. So where's this picture of yours? Yeah, I want to see it. I want to see Miss Maya's picture. You know, I don't know where it went. Aw, that's too bad. Well, it's alright. It wasn't anything important anyway.
Ah. Sure is nice to finally see them both smiling again. What is it, Edgeworth? This thing is picking something up. Ah, that's Miss Von Karma's receiver! Thanks to her, I had the most awful experience of my life, sir. I can't believe she stuck a tracking device on me. That's odd. Even though you're standing right here, the tracking device seems to be in a different location. Oh, it's probably busted or something, sir. Well, it doesn't matter. I'm afraid it's about time for me to excuse myself. I still have some work to do.
Huh? But Mr. Edgeworth, you haven't even eaten anything yet.
And you've eaten way too much, you glutton.
I had fun tonight. Now, if you'll excuse me.
Wait,
What?
I just want to say, thanks, Edgeworth. You really saved me out there.
If anyone should be saying thanks, it should be me, right?
I feel like words alone aren't enough here. I wonder if there's anything I can give him to express how I feel. Oh god! I don't know the correct answer! I don't know the correct answer! I think it might be this. Or maybe it's this. I don't remember. I don't remember. No, I have to look this up because otherwise I just don't get text. I need text.
Bum 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 bum.
Uh... Oh, is it the whip? Has a certain mysterious nostalgia to it.
What's this?
Thank you. It's all thanks to you two. You and her.
You don't need to thank me. I was only doing my job.
It looks like Mr. Edgeworth has left, Mr. Nick. Hey, Mystic Maya. Yes, Pearly? I guess you two can go back to being lovey-dovey, right? You and Mr. Nick, I mean. Pearly! Would you cut it out already? You're embarrassing me.
Anyway. So, who's paying for this lovely dinner party?
As if you need to ask. Everyone say thank you to Nick.
Huh? Ah, yeah. I'm kind of at the point where I can't even buy instant noodles, pal. So I kind of already put your name on the bill. Huh? Huh?
Yeah, I got me a situation just like that myself. There's this camera shop in this hotel, see? And I just bought myself this good old beauty here. It better be anyhow. It better be anyhow for $3,000. Huh? Actually, I reckon you bought it for me since it's on your tab and all. Isn't this great, Mr. Nick? Yeah, Nick.
Why do I suddenly feel like screaming?
Aw, you don't need to hold it back now, you hear?
Yeah, pal. Time to let it all out.
This is going to be the first time I hear the real you. Go on. It's been a while since I heard you say it. I've been busy being a hostage and all.
Alright then. If you say so. Ugh.
You really came through for me, Nick. I had to hide that letter, but I knew you'd find it. I really feel like I've been living on the edge lately. I mean, I've escaped death 3 times now. Pretty cool, huh? I feel like a pro.
I'm so happy you could save Mystic Maya, Mr. Nick. And I'm so happy for the 2 of you. Speaking of which, I think this hotel is a popular place for honeymooners. So I sort of made reservations for the 2 of you, just in case.
Well, pal, looks like I'm back on the force again. Mr. Edgeworth had a long talk with the chief, and he got me reinstated for my sake. I heard he said things like letting that one go is bad for all of society. I knew it. Crashing headlong into everything is the only way to live, pal.
I'm Maggie Bird and retiring this uniform as of today, sir. I'm going to be a waitress from now on. And bring smiles and joy to the people who come by the restaurant, sir. I hope you'll stop by sometime, Mr. Wright.
I forgot what voice I gave her.
Yes. Are you here to visit a patient? I'm Dr. Huddy. Oh, recently. Yes. That girl, you know. I haven't seen her around. Yes. But I remember, if I even laid so much as an eye on her, it would go crack. Didn't matter if I got whipped, though. Yes. Ho ho.
It's time to begin our quest of world circus domination, sweetie! And to let the world know we are serious, I plan to take a fabulous flight to Zimbabwe.
Hey, Max, what do you think Zimbabwe's like? Do you think there are castles made of cake and bunnies who can talk?
I think if there are any talking bunnies, even they won't laugh at most jokes. I'm ready! There's no way these jokes are gonna fall on deaf ears. I'm gonna be more contemporary with my humor. Mo Curls represents.
You gotta be our new act all worked out, prepared for the Hallelujah chorus. Say something, will ya? You're supposed to start this off. Get on with it.
What's this? Drat, it's just an ordinary electric razor recharging on its stand. I can't believe this, really. How long do they plan on making me do this? Oh, but for Edgy Poo's sake, so that it must mean it has a deep hidden meaning. But, why do I feel the feeling they wouldn't forget it about me, would they? I was never like this in the old days. Everyone thought the world of me. They used to call me Queen Windy and treat me like royalty. It's gonna be a pain in my heel. They'll feel the burn. Playing with fire is dangerous, and warehouses and a huge stink.
Na-na-na-na-na-na-na. I appreciate everything you and Mr. Edgeworth did for me from the bottom of my heart. Oh, that's right. I received a letter from Miss Von Karma. She said that after I got out, I should feel free to consult her about anything at all. I'm really thankful to have met everyone.
It has become difficult for me in this country as of late. As such, I will take a short leave of absence. If you would like to request my services, please be sure to visit my homepage. May we both be blessed with longevity.
March 23rd, 9:42 p.m. International departures gate 12. Where are you going, Francisca? How did you know I was here? With this... That's... I heard you were planting things on a certain person. Things like tracking device in his coat, for example. That's just like you. I only planted it there because he was always wearing it. This filthy, drab coat of his. I don't know how it ended up in my luggage. But it's going in the trash, I promise you that. Oh, that's right. Speaking of that man, he told me something very interesting. When I ran off with the things from the killer's hideout, I was sure I took 4 things in total, sir. 4 things? It seems he put the last one in his coat pocket. He put it in here? It doesn't matter anymore. The case is already over. What are you going to do now? That's none of your business. Are you running away? Shut up! You don't understand a thing. You can't possibly understand what it means to be Manfred von Karma's daughter. Francisca. So many expectations from everyone around me. Expectations I must fulfill. I'm expected to win no matter what. And failure? Such a thing is not an option for me. My father was a genius. There's no doubt about that. But me? I'm no genius. I've always known that. But I had to be one. I had to. You may not be a genius like your father, but you are a prosecutor. You have been and always will be. No, I'm not. Not anymore. I've even thrown my whip away. Speaking of that, Wright gave me this to hold on to. Right. You knew something like this would happen, didn't you? I'm going to say this again. We prosecutors do not fight for personal honor or pride. I hope you will think deeply about what you should be striking down with that whip. You haven't changed a bit. You've always left me alone and walked on ahead without me. Miles Edgeworth, I always hated you. And then, finally, my chance to take my revenge on you arrived. If I could win against that man, if I could make Phoenix Wright bow down in defeat, then this girl you left behind would have risen higher than you. That was supposed to be my revenge. I see. You know, I can't do it. I can't change who I am. I can't throw away everything I've been until today. I believe you can, just like how Adrian Andrews did. Adrian Andrews? You were going to use her during the trial, right? But you were dependent on your father by using his tactics. Isn't that right? Today, you chased after me, after I had left you behind all these years. And that's why you were standing here, and that's why we're standing here now, side by side. But I have no intention of stopping. If you say you are going to quit your walk down the prosecutor's path, then this is where we part ways, Francisca von Karma. I am Francisca von Karma. Don't think I'm going to walk in your shadow forever. Our battle begins now.
So you had better prepare yourself, Miles Edgeworth.
Look at all this smudged land.
Phoenix Wright, one day, someday, I'm sure we'll meet again in battle. Until then, this last piece of evidence that never made it to you, I'll take good care of this fourth piece, so I can give it to you when at last we meet again.
I don't know if this is Francisco or Edgeworth. It sounds like Edgeworth. Ah! There we go. 3.5 hours. Oh my god. Okay. Okay. So, as a package, Justice for All is, I think, quite easily the worst in the main lines. Not to say that it's even bad, but like, the first case I hate. The third case is okay for the most part. I don't hate it, but I don't really like it that much either. It's just kind of okay overall. The second case, I think, is much better, but it can be confusing at times. And then the fourth case is just one of the best cases in the series. Kind of fucked up. You have one bad case, two okay cases, and then S tier. It's weird. It's weird. So as a package, Justice for All is very likely the weakest of the mainline Ace Attorney games. But man, Farewell My Turnabout is so good that it kind of makes up for everything before it. It's so good. I love Farewell My Turnabout. Ugh. But I'm done, because this took me 3.5 hours. If I'm not done now, then I'm just trapped here forever, and I can't have that. So, we're ending it now. Gonna do like I did last time. I'm gonna play a different game, and then hop back in for Trials and Tribulations after I'm done with that other game I do next. But yeah, that's gonna be it for now. Thank you all for watching. Especially if you got this far and stick around, because there's a lot more to come.